What if everything you see, feel, and experience is not what it seems? What if the universe, in all its vastness and complexity, is not truly out there, but instead a grand illusion, a holographic projection originating from somewhere beyond space and time? This isn't science fiction. It's a theory gaining more and more traction in both scientific and spiritual circles. It's called the holographic universe theory. In this view, the solid world we interact with, the walls we touch, the skies we gaze into, the people we meet, may not be solid at all. They might be flickers of information, encoded and projected into form much like a hologram. Just as a hologram contains all the information of a full image even when broken into smaller parts, this theory suggests that every part of the universe contains the whole. That space and time are not the ultimate reality, that matter is not fundamental, that your consciousness, your awareness, is not a byproduct of the brain, but perhaps the very canvas upon which the universe is drawn. The roots of this idea reach deep into quantum physics, neuroscience, and even ancient mystical traditions. It's a bridge between science and spirit, a convergence of logic and intuition. When you begin to grasp the implications of the holographic model, everything shifts. The world no longer feels random. Your experiences, your memories, your synchronicities, your dreams begin to make a strange kind of sense. Not as isolated events, but as interconnected expressions of a single source. In this 4-hour exploration, we will dive deeply into the origins and meaning of this profound idea. We'll explore the work of Michael Talbot, who helped bring the holographic universe into public awareness. We'll examine the insights of physicist David Bohm, whose concept of the implicate order radically reimagines the nature of reality. And we'll look at the theories of Karl Pribram, who believed the brain itself processes information holographically. But that's not all. We'll trace the echoes of this theory in ancient spiritual teachings, from Vedic philosophy to Hermeticism, from the Tao to the mystical branches of Christianity. We'll explore how the observer shapes reality, how synchronicities, dreams, signs might be the system speaking back to us, how what we call real may be more malleable than we ever imagined. We'll also reflect on the personal side of this realization. What does it mean for your life, your choices, and your awakening? If the universe is a projection, what is it projecting from, and who is doing the projecting? As you listen to these words, allow yourself to remain open. Let go of the need to understand everything right away, because this journey isn't about immediate answers. It's about expanding the questions. Think of it like waking up in a dream. At first, everything looks the same, but then the edges start to blur. Patterns begin to repeat. You start to wonder if there's more happening beneath the surface. This theory is not just about what the universe is, it's about who you are in relation to it. If the universe is a hologram, then perhaps so are you. Not in a dehumanizing way, but in a liberating one. Because holograms don't separate the parts from the whole. Each fragment contains the entirety. Each point of consciousness is connected to every other. This idea challenges the core assumptions of modern science, and yet it also reflects the most ancient spiritual truths. Truths that have always whispered that we are more than flesh and bone, that what we see is only a shadow of a deeper, hidden reality. Take a moment to let that settle. The idea that your mind may not just observe the universe but participate in its creation. That what you call you might be a localized experience of the entire cosmos unfolding. The holographic universe isn't just a metaphor, it's a proposal, one that invites us to re-examine every belief we hold about reality, perception, and existence itself. Now let's take a step back and look at where this theory came from. Let's meet the minds who first dared to ask these questions, and dared to answer them in ways that bent the very fabric of conventional thought. Let us begin. The holographic theory begins with a paradox, a contradiction that has puzzled scientists for decades. How can particles, light, and waves behave differently depending on whether or not they are observed? How can information appear to exist beyond the boundaries of space and time? Why does the act of observation seem to influence reality itself? The double-slit experiment is perhaps the most famous example. In this experiment, particles such as electrons are fired at a barrier with two slits. Behind the slits is a screen that records where each particle lands. When unobserved, the particles behave like waves, creating an interference pattern, as if they passed through both slits at once. But when scientists measure which slit each particle goes through, the wave collapses. The particles behave like individual units going through only one slit. The interference pattern disappears. This simple experiment shattered the boundaries of classical physics. It revealed something profound. The observer plays a role in shaping the outcome. Observation is not passive. It participates in the unfolding of events. But why? How could our awareness, our act of measurement, alter physical reality? Is it possible that reality isn't out there at all, that it exists only in relationship with the consciousness that perceives it? These questions have led scientists and philosophers to consider radical alternatives. Among them, the holographic model stands out. It proposes that what we perceive as reality is a kind of projection, not projected by a machine, but by a fundamental field of information and energy. To understand this, let's first explore how a hologram works. Imagine a three-dimensional image suspended in space. You can walk around it, look at it from different angles. It seems real, but it's just light. Interference patterns recorded on a flat surface and illuminated with laser light to create the illusion of depth. What's astonishing about holograms is this. Every part contains the whole. If you cut a holographic plate into pieces, each piece still contains the full image. Not a fragmented part, but the entire image, from a different perspective. This property is called non-locality, and it's not just a trick of optics. It mirrors a feature of the quantum world. In quantum physics, entangled particles remain connected across distance. Change one, and the other responds instantly, as if space does not separate them, as if beneath the surface there is no separation at all. This is where the holographic model gains power. It offers a way to explain how such connection is possible, by suggesting that what we see as separate objects are actually projections from a deeper unified source. A famous analogy compares this to a radio. When you turn the dial, you receive a signal and hear a station, but the station doesn't exist inside the radio. It's being broadcast from somewhere else. Your radio decodes the signal. Likewise, your brain may not be the source of consciousness, but the receiver. It interprets a deeper signal, and the world you see is not out there in the way it seems. It's a decodan, a rendering of something beyond space and time. This doesn't mean reality is fake. It doesn't mean your experiences are illusions. It means they are symbolic, encoded with meaning, emerging from something deeper. Just as a hologram is made from waves and patterns, so too might the universe be constructed from interference. Interference of frequencies, information, fields. Some researchers believe the entire cosmos is a giant information field. Every atom, every event, every thought, recorded like patterns in a cosmic memory. This idea parallels ancient spiritual tradition. In Hinduism, there is the Akashic record, a subtle dimension where all events, emotions, and intentions are stored. In Hermeticism, there is the all-mind, a universal consciousness that generates and sustains the illusion of form. Science, too, is beginning to whisper the same truths, that the fabric of the universe is not made of matter, but of information, and that we are not passive observers of this universe. We are participators, co-creators. If this is true, then every experience you have is meaningful. Every thought you think echoes in the greater field. Your inner world and the outer world are not separate. They are reflections, mirrors within mirrors. The ancient mystics often said, as above, so below, as within, so without. This holographic model suggests they were more literal than metaphorical, because the universe as a hologram is self-similar. Each part reflects the whole. You are the microcosm of the macrocosm, the galaxy within the grain, and this doesn't just uplift you, it humbles you. Because if you carry the entire universe within you, so does everyone else. Every being, every consciousness is a facet of the same light. And perhaps the purpose of life is not to dominate the hologram, but to awaken within it. This awakening is not a one-time event. It is gradual, like peeling back layers of fog, like remembering something you always knew. Have you ever looked into someone's eyes and seen something timeless, felt déjà vu in a place you've never been? witnessed a pattern repeat in your life until you learned from it. These moments might be more than coincidence. They could be signals from the deeper field, hints from the source projecting the hologram. When you start to see life this way, your perception changes. You begin to ask different questions. Not what is real, but what is this showing me? Not why is this happening to me, but what is this reflecting in me? The holographic view encourages inner work, because inner change ripples through the field, and outer events begin to shift accordingly. It invites you to explore yourself, not as a fixed personality, but as an unfolding mystery. A signal that grows clearer as you tune to the frequency of your own truth. And so, as we continue our journey, let this be your foundation, that you are not separate from the universe. You are an expression of it. The universe is not dead matter, but living information, alive in every breath you take, and that behind the illusion of separation is a perfect, timeless unity, waiting for you to remember. This unity is not abstract. It is intimate. It breathes through your thoughts. It pulses through your emotions. It lives in the spaces between the moments of your day. The holographic model doesn't merely describe the structure of the universe. It describes the nature of being. It whispers that there is more to you than skin, bones, and brain chemistry. That your consciousness is not confined. It expands. It resonates. It connects with the fabric of all that is. When we recognize that each of us is a fragment of the whole, we begin to change. Our perception softens. Our judgments fade. We start to see others not as separate beings, but as mirrors, each person reflecting something hidden within ourselves. This doesn't mean that all interactions are easy, but it does mean they are meaningful. Even the painful ones, especially the painful ones. Because in a holographic reality, every challenge is a teacher. Every conflict reveals a distortion in the projection, a wound in need of light, and healing becomes a process of integration, of gathering your scattered reflections, of remembering your wholeness. You are not here by accident. You are not lost in a random universe. You are participating in a grand dance of awareness, a dream dreamed by consciousness itself. And like a lucid dreamer who suddenly realizes the dream is theirs to shape, you begin to awaken. You begin to choose differently. You begin to ask, what am I creating with my thought? What patterns am I projecting outward? What reality am I unconsciously generating through belief? The holographic model doesn't stop at physics. It reaches into psychology, spirituality, and daily life. It suggests that healing the mind heals the projection, that finding peace within changes what we perceive outside. You don't need to escape the hologram. You need to see it clearly, to realize it is not your prison, it is your mirror. The fear, the chaos, the conflict, these are not punishments. They are feedback, like a reflection in a mirror showing you where you have turned away from your essence. And just like a dream, the scene changes when you change. You don't change it by force. You change it by shifting your frequency, your expectations, your energy. In this model, every thought matters. Every emotion ripples through the quantum field. You are broadcasting constantly. The universe listens. It echoes. It reflects. And this brings us to one of the deepest implications. That you are not just the observed, you are the observer. Not just a piece of the projection, you are the projector. Not a passive experiencer, but a creative force. This realization can be overwhelming. It means we carry a deep responsibility. Not in the sense of guilt, but in the sense of power, and in the sense of potential. You begin to see synchronicities not as coincidence, but as conversation. You notice patterns repeating like loops in a dream waiting to be resolved. You notice symbols appearing like whispers from the unseen. And you start to wonder, what is this hologram teaching me now? What am I ready to release? What new image am I ready to create? This awakening happens in layers. At first, you might feel like a small being inside a vast simulation, but eventually you realize you are the simulation. You are the vastness, the stars you gaze at, the forests you walk through, the strangers you meet. They are not separate. They are extensions, expressions of the same infinite consciousness. You may forget this from time to time. You may get lost in the drama of the dream, but you will remember. You always do. Because the dream is designed to wake you up. Every symbol is a signpost, every experience an invitation. The holographic universe is not about escaping matter, it's about realizing its sacred design. It's about finding the divine in the mundane, seeing the infinite in the fleeting. So the next time you look in the mirror, ask yourself, who is looking, and what is being reflected? Because when you truly see yourself, not just the face, but the awareness behind the eyes, you see the entire universe, and it sees you. As we conclude this first part of our journey, let the holographic nature of reality settle into your awareness. Not as a theory, not as a belief, but as a quiet knowing. The knowing that reality is deeper than it seems, that you are more powerful than you've been told, and that the light of awareness within you is not separate from the light that illuminates the cosmos. It is the same light, and you are that light. In the next part of this series, we will explore the mind of the man who brought this idea into the mainstream. Michael Talbot, his life, his visions, and the origins of the theory that would change the way we see everything. Let the hologram unfold, let your awareness expand, and remember what you seek is already within you. Part 2. Michael Talbot and the origin of the theory. Before the idea of a holographic universe entered the mainstream imagination, it lived in the mind of one man, a seeker, a storyteller, a visionary who bridged science and mysticism. His name was Michael Talbot. Born in 1953, Talbot was no ordinary author. He was fascinated by the strange and the unexplained, drawn not only to the frontiers of science but also to the depths of the human spirit. He wrote novels, essays, and investigations that explored the edges of perception, diving deep into the paranormal, the metaphysical, and the unexplained. But his most enduring legacy came in the form of a single work, The Holographic Universe. Published in 1991, the book sent ripples through both the scientific community and the world of spiritual seekers. It proposed a revolutionary idea that our universe is not solid and material in the way we think, but a projection much like a hologram. But what we perceive as physical reality is just the surface, a visible manifestation of something far deeper. Talbot was not a physicist himself, but he was a synthesizer, a translator between worlds. He had the rare gift of seeing patterns across disciplines, of connecting quantum physics with ancient wisdom, of weaving the mysterious experiences of human consciousness with cutting-edge scientific theory. His journey toward the holographic model began with questions. Why do people have out-of-body experiences? How do psychic phenomena occur? What explains synchronicity, déjà vu, or miraculous healing? These weren't just abstract curiosities for Talbot, they were personal. From an early age, he had strange experiences, visions, paranormal encounters, things that defied the physical laws he'd been taught in school. He began to suspect that our current understanding of reality was incomplete. Then two encounters would change everything. Two minds, working independently, would provide the pieces he needed. One was physicist David Bohm, the other was neuroscientist Karl Pribram. Bohm's theory of the implicate order described the universe as an undivided wholeness in flowing movement. He believed that what we see, the explicate world, is a projection from a deeper, hidden reality. Meanwhile, Pribram's model of the brain as a hologram proposed that memory and perception are not stored in fixed locations but distributed throughout the brain, like a holographic image where every part contains the whole. These two ideas mirrored each other in uncanny ways. Talbot saw it. Where Bohm saw the universe as a hologram, Pribram saw the brain as one too. Together, they formed a complete picture, a holographic brain inside a holographic universe, a reality where the observer and the observed are intertwined, where mind and matter are not separate, but reflections of the same field. Talbot's genius was in translating these technical theories into language the rest of us could feel. He didn't just describe physics, he told stories. He filled his book with real accounts of people who had experienced near-death experiences, psychic events, or spontaneous healing. He didn't treat these stories as anomalies. He treated them as evidence that there was more to reality than meets the eye. He asked, what if these bizarre events aren't exceptions but glimpses of the deeper nature of things? What if the reason they seem so strange is because our model of reality is flawed? He proposed that the holographic model could explain it all. Why can a person remember a lifetime in a moment during a near-death experience? Because time is not linear in a holographic field, it's all happening at once. Why can people feel the thoughts or emotions of others? Because in a hologram, separation is an illusion. Everything is connected. Why can someone access memories or information they've never consciously learned? Because like light shining through a holographic plate, awareness can tune into deeper layers of information. It's all there encoded in the field. Talbot called this field the matrix behind matter, a place where consciousness and energy converge. He spoke of reality as layered. What we see with our eyes is only the tip of the iceberg. Beneath it lies an ocean of potential, a realm of archetypes, emotions, and thought forms. To understand reality, we must learn to see with more than just our eyes. We must perceive with intuition, with insight, with inner knowing. Talbot didn't claim to have all the answers, but he opened a door between science and spirit, between the measurable and the mystical. He died young, just 38 years old, but his book lives on, still read, still shared, still awakening minds to the possibility that reality is far more magical and far more participatory than we've been led to believe. Talbot was a bridge. He reminded us that mystery is not a flaw in the universe. It is the very essence of it. And when we approach the world not with certainty but with curiosity, the universe responds. It opens. It reflects. Just like a hologram. In the holographic universe, Talbot explores not only science but consciousness. He doesn't just want to explain the universe, we can feel he wants to wake us up to it. To something we've forgotten, something ancient, something alive. He draws us into a space where the boundaries between science, mysticism, and experience dissolve. And suddenly, we're not just reading, we're remembering. One of the core themes Talbot expresses is that reality is not happening to us. It's happening through us. We are not just observers in a passive cosmos. We are participants in a vast field of interconnected awareness. He uses the metaphor of the hologram again and again, because it flips our sense of space, of time, of separation. In a hologram, every piece contains the whole, which means that each one of us is not a fragment, but a reflection of the entire universe. A microcosm of the macrocosm. Talbot was deeply inspired by mystical traditions, Hermeticism, Eastern philosophy, and Gnostic thought, not to mention modern metaphysical thinkers like Karl Jung. He saw how these ancient teachings and modern science were saying the same thing, just in different languages. Jung spoke of the collective unconscious, a shared psychic space where symbols and archetypes live. Talbot saw the holographic universe as a scientific explanation for this shared inner world. The hologram was not only physical, it was psychic. Everything that exists externally also exists internally. What we call the world is not separate from our mind. The observer, the observed, and the act of observation are all part of the same event. This was not just theory to Talbot. He experienced it. Throughout his life, he had vivid paranormal episodes. He saw apparitions. He had moments of telepathy, even physical phenomena, objects moving or appearing inexplicably. He didn't see these as hallucinations. He didn't dismiss them as tricks of the mind. Instead, he questioned whether reality itself might be more fluid than we assume. In the holographic model, these events make sense. They are not violations of physical law. They are windows into deeper dimensions of consciousness. Talbot describes how people who've had near-death experiences often say the same thing, that they saw their entire life flash before their eyes. Not like a movie reel, but all at once. Everything that had ever happened to them, every emotion, every word, every decision, was there, visible, alive, in a single moment. This isn't possible in a linear, time-bound reality, but in a holographic universe where time is not sequential but layered, it is. In fact, Talbot suggests that memory itself might be holographic, that our brains don't store memories in a fixed place, but access them like frequencies in a field. Just like a holographic plate contains all the information of the image in every part, our consciousness may be able to access all experiences, past, present, and potential. He draws parallels with ESP, or extrasensory perception. How can someone know what's happening hundreds of miles away? How can a mother feel that her child is in danger even without a phone call? If everything is part of a unified field, then distance is an illusion. What we call telepathy may simply be 2 points within the same consciousness tuning into each other. Talbot also touches on poltergeist phenomena. He shares stories of teenagers going through intense emotional upheaval, causing strange disturbances. Objects flying off shelves, lights flickering, appliances malfunctioning. Is it ghosts? Or is it mind interacting with matter? In a holographic universe, emotion is not just internal, it affects the field. Thoughts, feelings, even unconscious traumas may ripple outward, shaping what we call reality. He proposes that what we see around us may be, in part, a projection of our inner state, that the outer world reflects the inner world, not metaphorically but literally. And this has enormous implications. If the world we see is not fixed, not separate, not out there, then we are not victims of it. We are co-creators of it. This is why Talbot's work resonated not just with scientists but with healers, mystics, and seekers. It gave spiritual language a scientific foundation. It gave mysticism a new legitimacy. He was saying what you feel is true, the sense that you are more than your body, the intuition that your thoughts shape your reality, the moments of déjà vu, the dreams that feel prophetic, the coincidences that feel too perfect. They're not crazy. They are real phenomena emerging from the deeper holographic structure of the universe. Talbot reminds us that science is not meant to erase mystery. It's meant to deepen it, to help us walk into the unknown, not to explain it away but to enter it with reverence. He believed that if we begin to accept the holographic model, we will radically shift how we live. We will begin to understand that healing is possible, that transformation is not only psychological, it is energetic, that we are not trapped by biology or circumstance. Because if reality is a projection, then the projector is consciousness. And if that's true, then we are all holding the controls. Talbot wrote not just to inform, but to empower. He wanted us to remember what we are. He hints at the spiritual truth found in so many traditions, that we are not just within the universe. The universe is within us. And in every moment, through our focus, our emotion, and our belief, we are shaping that universe. The implications are immense. It means prayer works. It means intention work. It means love and fear are not just feelings but creative forces. To read Talbot is to feel both humbled and awakened. He doesn't hand us conclusions. He invites us to explore, to experiment with our awareness, to step outside the rigid framework of physical-only reality and enter the dance between mind and matter. In doing so, he brings us full circle, back to the mystery, back to the question, back to the self. Because in the holographic universe, the most profound discoveries are not out there, they are within. Michael Talbot was not a lone voice in the wilderness. His work emerged in a time when the boundaries between science and spirituality were beginning to blur. The 1980s and 1990s saw a growing public fascination with quantum physics, near-death experiences, and mind-body medicine. Talbot was a synthesizer, a weaver of knowledge across disciplines. He wasn't doing experiments in a lab. He was experimenting with the meaning of reality itself. Reading Talbot feels less like absorbing facts and more like unlearning limits. He urges us to see through the veil, to realize that the material world is not as solid as we think. It is energetic, it is conscious, it is alive. One of the most powerful aspects of Talbot's work is his accessibility. He doesn't write like an academic. He writes like a fellow traveler. He brings clarity to complex ideas without diluting their depth. He speaks from a place of wonder, not authority. And in doing so, he creates a space for us to awaken our own intuition. He recounts stories of healings that defy explanation, of people with terminal illnesses recovering overnight after a deep shift in consciousness. How can this happen? In a materialistic worldview, it can't. But in a holographic one, where belief and emotion impact physical form, it becomes possible. Talbot explored the concept of multiple levels of reality coexisting. Like frames on a film reel, each reality is present, but we perceive only one at a time. When we shift our consciousness, we shift the frame we're aligned with. This is the foundation of timeline shifting, of manifesting, of transformation. He brings attention to dreams, not just as psychological phenomena, but as entries into alternate dimensions. In a holographic model, dreams might not be fictional, they might be real experiences in parallel realities. This changes how we see our own subconscious. It's not a shadow, it's another world, and our access to it is a gift. Talbot was also interested in the idea of synchronicity, those moments when reality aligns in ways too perfect to be random. You think of a friend, and they call. You open a book and the exact sentence you need jumps out. In the holographic model, synchronicity is not just coincidence, it is coherence, the alignment of the inner and outer fields, the universe responding to consciousness. He emphasized that the more aware we become, the more these synchronicities occur, not because we are changing the world, but because we are tuning into deeper layers of it. We become aware of the patterns. We begin to see the hidden order beneath the apparent chaos. This is what David Bohm called the implicate order, a hidden, underlying field where everything is already connected. Talbot saw Bohm's theory as a scientific backbone to his own mystical intuitions. The explicate order, the world we see, is just the surface. The implicate is where the true reality resides. And Talbot believed we could access that order through meditation, through awareness, through love. He believed that emotions are not just personal, they are energetic signals that shape reality. Fear collapses possibility. Love expands. Gratitude tunes us to the field. In this model, healing is not about fixing something broken. It's about remembering wholeness, tuning back into the frequency of health, which already exists in the field. Talbot recounts stories where people visualize their illness dissolving, and it does, where children imagine light filling their bodies, and their wounds heal faster. This isn't magic, it's resonance. Talbot's view was radically hopeful, because it placed the power, not in external systems, but in the individual, in awareness, in belief, in connection to the deeper intelligence that underlies all things. And yet Talbot did not dismiss science. He revered it, but he also saw its limits. He saw that when science is divorced from consciousness, it becomes reductionist. It misses the essence. He believed the next frontier was not outer space, but inner space. That the journey into consciousness would reveal more about the universe than any telescope ever could. Because we are not looking at the universe, we are the universe looking at itself. Michael Talbot died in 1992, at the age of 38. His life was short, but his legacy endures. The holographic universe continues to inspire thinkers, healers, and seekers around the world. Because it speaks to something timeless, something we've always known but perhaps forgotten. That reality is not fixed, that we are not separate from the cosmos, that mind and matter are not two but one, and that the deeper we go into ourselves, the more of the universe we find. Talbot invites us to stop asking what is real, and start asking who is dreaming this. He shows us that what we call reality is more like a mirror, reflecting our beliefs, our emotions, our energy. And when we realize this, something profound happens. We stop feeling like victims of life. We start becoming conscious participants in its unfolding. This is not about control, it's about awareness. It's about stepping into the sacred responsibility of creation. Because if every piece contains the whole, then you, right now, contain the entire cosmos. Every star, every possibility, every timeline, every answer. And as you awaken to that truth, you begin to see the world, not as it is, but as it truly could be. A universe not made of matter, but of meaning. A hologram of the divine, and you its living reflection. To understand the deeper significance of the holographic model, we must consider how it challenges the very structure of knowledge as we know it. In traditional science, the universe is compartmentalized. The mind is studied by psychologists, matter by physicists, life by biologists. But in a holographic paradigm, all things are connected. There is no true division between disciplines because reality itself is undivided. It is a seamless whole, where each part contains the signature of the totality. This was what David Bohm referred to as the undivided wholeness in flowing movement. In a holographic universe, fragmentation is only apparent. We perceive separation because our senses and instruments are tuned to that level. But just beyond that layer of perception lies unity, a field of information from which space, time, and matter emerge. This brings us into the language of frequency and vibration. Because in a holographic field, everything that exists does so as a pattern of energy. Nothing is truly solid. What appears to be material form is simply energy vibrating at a particular frequency. Our bodies, our thoughts, even our emotions, all of them are frequencies. And just as a hologram is created through the interference of light waves, your reality is shaped by the interference patterns of your thoughts, feelings, and beliefs. If your thoughts are chaotic, the projection is distorted. If your inner world is harmonious, the outer world reflects that clarity. This is not just theory. It is the foundation of practices that span cultures and centuries. Prayer, meditation, visualization, all of these are ways to influence the energetic field, ways to alter the hologram. The technology of the spirit has always known this, even if science is only now catching up. Let's return to the hologram itself. One of the most mind-bending features of holography is the concept of non-locality. Information in a hologram is not stored in a single place. It is distributed throughout the entire field, which means that if you have access to any part of the field, you can access all of it. This aligns precisely with what quantum physics has discovered. Particles once entangled remain connected regardless of distance. A change in one is instantly reflected in the other. Einstein called it spooky action at a distance. But within the holographic model, it's not spooky at all. It's natural, because the particles were never truly separate to begin with. Now think about consciousness. If your mind is not confined to your skull, if it is part of a greater field, then you too are non-local. You can access knowledge, insight, and experience beyond what your physical senses provide. This explains intuition, synchronicity, knowing something before it happens. It's not magic, it's the hologram responding. And what about memory? We typically think of memory as stored inside the brain, like data in a hard drive. But the holographic model suggests that memory exists in the field. The brain is the receiver, not the storage unit. When you recall a past event, you're tuning into a frequency, a pattern still vibrating in the holographic matrix. This also redefines the concept of reincarnation. If consciousness is non-local, and information is never lost, only transformed, then the experiences of other lifetimes could simply be accessed through resonance. You don't remember past lives in the traditional sense. You tune into them, because they're all still there, stored in the field. And in a holographic universe, that field exists inside you. Let's now turn to one more fascinating implication: healing. If the body is a projection of the field, then disease is a distortion in that pattern. Healing, then, is not just about fixing the body. It's about correcting the interference. Many holistic systems understand this intuitively. Reiki, acupuncture, sound healing. They all work by harmonizing the energetic field, not just the physical symptoms. This is why spontaneous remissions sometimes occur. Not because the body changed, but because the field was altered. A shift in belief, a moment of forgiveness, a deep realization, and suddenly, the projection realigns. The holographic model brings all of this into coherence. It offers a unifying explanation for phenomena that once seemed disconnected or unprovable. It invites us to think differently, not just about the universe, but about ourselves. We are not static beings trapped in space and time. We are dynamic expressions of a living field of information. Our consciousness is the bridge between the unmanifest and the manifest. Our awareness is the light that projects the hologram. And the more we awaken to this, the more empowered we become. Because once you understand that you are not just observing the movie, you are scripting it. You stop being a passive character. You begin to rewrite your role. This is where the spiritual and the scientific converge. Not in opposition, but in harmony. Science provides the model. Spirituality provides the practice. Together they point to the same truth. You are the image and the light, the part and the whole, the dreamer and the dream. In the holographic universe, nothing is lost. Nothing is separate. Everything is encoded. Everything is connected. And so the question is no longer, what is real? The question becomes, what are you projecting? And even deeper than that, who is the one projecting it? To go further, we must reflect on the idea that the hologram doesn't just store information, it stores it in a way that is fundamentally different from how we're taught to understand reality. In a digital file, each piece of data has a specific location. If that location is lost or corrupted, the information is gone. But in a hologram, the information is not localized. Each portion of the holographic film contains the entire image, just from a different perspective. That concept alone is revolutionary. It means that the universe, at its core, may be constructed in such a way that every point in space and time contains the whole. Every cell in your body carries the blueprint of your entire being. Every moment carries echoes of eternity. This is why ancient mystics often described seeing the universe in a grain of sand, or hearing God in a single tone. They were not being poetic, they were perceiving the holographic nature of reality. The mystic, the philosopher, and now the physicist are converging on the same truth. That truth is wholeness. But there's something even more mysterious that the holographic principle brings forth. Something deeply spiritual. It's the idea that we live inside a projection, that the reality we experience is not the source but the image. And just as a hologram appears three-dimensional but is actually encoded in two dimensions, our universe may be a shadow of a deeper, more fundamental dimension. This is where science meets mysticism. Because mystics have always said that what we see is not the real world, it is Maya, illusion, a veil drawn over the truth. And now physics whispers the same, that space and time may be emergent properties, that beneath them lies a timeless, spaceless field of pure information. And if the universe is a hologram, then consciousness must be the light that brings it to life. In this model, you are not a tiny speck drifting through a vast and indifferent cosmos. You are a lens, a fractal of consciousness projecting and perceiving reality simultaneously. You are not in the universe. The universe is in you. This also explains why two people can live through the same event and perceive it entirely differently, because their internal holographic filters are projecting unique versions of the same energy. Perception becomes not just a personal experience but a creative force. You are not observing life, you are generating it, moment by moment, frame by frame. And this is not limited to human beings. Every conscious entity is a projector, from the smallest atom to the most complex civilization. Everything contributes to the collective hologram. But here's something extraordinary. If reality is a holographic projection, then it can be changed by changing the code. And the code is not written in numbers or symbols. It is written in frequency, vibration, emotion, belief. This is why belief systems are so powerful. They are not passive frameworks. They are instructions to the hologram. What you believe becomes your filter, and what your filter permits becomes your reality. To change the projection, you must change the filter, and to change the filter, you must step outside the narrative you've inherited. You must question everything, not to rebel against it, but to see through it, to recognize the illusion and the projector, and when you do, the hologram begins to shift. Not instantly, not always dramatically, but it shifts. Because the light of your awareness is recalibrating the frequencies behind the curtain. In the traditional view of reality, you're at the mercy of external events. Things happen to you. In the holographic view, things happen through you. The outer is a reflection of the inner. This explains manifestation, not as wishful thinking, but as energetic alignment. When your thoughts, emotions, and beliefs resonate with a certain frequency, the hologram aligns to reflect that frequency. It's not about getting what you want. It's about becoming the frequency of what you desire. Because once you are the vibration, the projection cannot help but match it. So how do you apply this? You begin by becoming conscious of your inner state, your thoughts, your emotions, your assumptions. You treat them not just as reactions but as creative tools. If you feel fear, you do not suppress it. You ask what signal it is broadcasting to the hologram. If you feel joy, you amplify it, because that frequency is shaping the field. The more aware you become, the clearer the image becomes, and in that clarity, you discover something profound, that you are the creator, not in the egoic sense of domination, but in the spiritual sense of participation. You are co-creating reality with the universe, moment by moment. The hologram doesn't control you, it responds to you, and this changes everything. Suddenly the world is not just a stage, it is a mirror. Not just a test, it is a teacher. Not just matter, but meaning. You begin to see symbols in the mundane, patterns in the chaos. You begin to live awake within the dream. This is the gift of understanding the holographic universe. It doesn't offer easy answers, but it offers a new way of seeing. And once you see through the hologram, you can begin to play with it, to shape it, to dance with it. You are not a fragment, you are a fractal, a perfect piece of the whole, containing the whole. And as you heal, as you awaken, as you remember who you really are, the entire field shifts with you. Because in a holographic universe, when one part changes, the whole reflects it. And that means your evolution is not just personal, it is cosmic. Your awakening ripples out beyond space and time. It touches everything. So, the next time you look around and wonder if the world is real, remember this: it is as real as you believe it to be, and it will become as beautiful, as peaceful, and as magical as the vibration you hold within. You are the light, you are the lens, you are the image, and the hologram is yours to shape. Part 4. Quantum physics meets the holographic model. Quantum physics has always defied logic. It dances in a realm where particles are waves, where time doesn't always flow forward, and where reality doesn't exist until it's observed. At first, it seemed to be a mathematical oddity, a set of bizarre rules that only applied to the tiniest building blocks of nature. But as we've dug deeper, we've begun to realize something extraordinary, that the quantum world may hold the blueprint for the entire cosmos, and that this blueprint eerily mirrors the holographic model. To understand this connection, we need to first revisit one of the most famous experiments in physics, the double-slit experiment. When particles like electrons or photons are fired at a barrier with two slits, something strange happens. If one slit is open, the particle acts like a bullet. It creates a single band on the screen behind the slit. But when both slits are open, it doesn't form two bands. It creates an interference pattern, the kind you'd see with waves. The implication: each particle is behaving like a wave of probability. It goes through both slits at once. It interferes with itself. It exists in a state of infinite possibility. But here's the twist. If we place a detector to observe which slit the particle actually goes through, the wave collapses. The interference pattern disappears. The particle chooses a path. The act of observing changes the outcome. This is not a philosophical metaphor. It's a scientific fact. Reality doesn't snap into place until there's an observer. So what does this have to do with holograms? In a holographic model, the image isn't real in and of itself. It's a projection, a result of interference patterns recorded on a film. Only when light hits the film does the hologram appear. Only then does the image become visible. In other words, the hologram, like the quantum world, relies on an interaction to become real. It's not just sitting there waiting. It requires something to activate it, to collapse it from potential to form. The parallel is stunning. Now imagine the universe as a vast holographic field. All possibilities exist as potential within it. What collapses that potential into reality? Consciousness, awareness, the observer. Physicist John Wheeler famously proposed the idea of a participatory universe. He believed the universe is not a static object, but something we help create by observing it. This echoes the core idea of quantum mechanics: observation affects reality. But Wheeler took it further. He suggested that perhaps the universe wouldn't even exist in a definite form unless there was consciousness to observe it. That space, time, and matter might be outcomes, not foundations. That we are not just living in the universe, we are activating it. This is where the holographic model comes into sharp focus. Because a hologram is not the thing, it is the echo, the appearance. It is encoded data being interpreted into form. And this brings us to one of the boldest theories in theoretical physics, the holographic principle. It began with black holes. Physicist Jacob Bekenstein discovered that the amount of information you could store in a black hole didn't scale with its volume. It scaled with the surface area of its event horizon. Later, Stephen Hawking confirmed this with his work on black hole entropy. This was bizarre. In our everyday world, more space usually means more storage. But in black holes, the information was somehow painted on the surface, not stored inside. This led to a shocking realization. If black holes encode information on a two-dimensional surface, maybe the entire universe does the same. Maybe what we perceive as 3D space is actually a projection, a hologram generated from data stored on a distant cosmic boundary. This is the holographic principle, first proposed by physicist Gerard 't Hooft, and later expanded by Leonard Susskind. It suggests that all the information in our universe, every planet, every atom, every moment, is encoded on a 2D surface at the edge of the universe. And our 3D experience is the illusion, the projection. If this is true, then quantum mechanics isn't just a weird footnote in science. It's a clue, a glimpse behind the curtain. Because in a holographic universe, everything is interconnected, just like the particles in quantum entanglement. Quantum entanglement is another phenomenon that makes no sense in classical physics. Two particles become linked, and when you measure one, the other responds instantly, no matter how far apart they are. Einstein called this spooky action at a distance. It seemed to violate the speed of light, but in a holographic model this makes perfect sense, because distance is an illusion. In a hologram, every part is connected to every other part. The whole is in every piece. So when two particles are entangled, they are not communicating across space. They are not even truly separate. They are aspects of the same underlying pattern. Changes in one are reflected instantly in the other, because they are one thing, not two. This understanding begins to dissolve the boundaries we've placed on reality. It invites us to see the universe not as a mechanical machine, but as a fluid, conscious, responsive field. One that is both mathematical and mystical. One that behaves like a hologram. And if the universe behaves like a hologram, then your mind, your awareness must be part of the projector. What you think, how you feel, and what you believe are not passive experiences. They are quantum events. They are instruction. They are the very mechanisms by which reality becomes visible. In this light, consciousness is not a byproduct of the brain. It is the fundamental force that gives rise to everything. You are not just witnessing the universe, you are shaping it. Because in a quantum holographic reality, the observer is the creator. This fusion of quantum physics and the holographic model doesn't just offer a new lens to view the cosmos. It forces us to rethink what we've always assumed about reality. We've grown up believing that the physical world is out there, external, objective, and indifferent. But quantum physics tells us otherwise. It whispers a secret that mystics have spoken for centuries, that reality is at its core a dance between potential and perception, between the seen and the unseen, between matter and mind. Consider the quantum field. According to quantum field theory, everything we observe arises from underlying fields that permeate space. Particles are not standalone objects. They are excitations, ripples in these fields. This suggests that what we call matter is just a localized vibration in a sea of infinite energy, a disturbance in a fabric that we cannot directly see. Now overlay this with the holographic model. In a hologram, the image you perceive is created by interference patterns. Patterns that are invisible until activated by light. Similarly, our reality may be encoded in energy patterns fields that become visible only through awareness. Physicist David Bohm once described reality as an unbroken wholeness in flowing movement. He believed that the universe was not made of separate parts, but was a continuous and folded whole. What we see as separation is only a surface-level projection. Bohm's ideas about the implicate order will be explored more deeply in the next part of this video. But here we can already see how his vision connects quantum mechanics to a holographic view. In both models, the universe is not fragmented but whole. Each part contains the whole, just as every fragment of a hologram contains the full image. And this leads to something even more staggering. If the holographic principle is correct, if our three-dimensional reality is encoded on a two-dimensional surface, then what we perceive as out there may actually be in here. That is, our minds may not be separate from the universe. They may be portals through which the universe experiences itself. Quantum physics already suggests that consciousness is not incidental. The observer effect shows that measurement, and by extension, awareness brings potential into form. If reality is a holographic projection, then consciousness is not just looking at the projection, it's participating in its creation. The more we look at the quantum world, the more we see that its laws mirror the nature of the mind. It's probabilistic, it's non-local, it's deeply interconnected. In the double-slit experiment, the pattern changes based on knowledge. If we know which path the particle took, the interference disappears. If we don't know, the wave-like pattern remains. This suggests something profound. Reality responds not just to observation, but to information, to knowing. And what is the seat of knowing? The mind, the consciousness. In recent years, experiments have pushed this even further. Delayed choice quantum eraser experiments have shown that even future measurements can affect past behavior. A particle's path seems to retroactively change based on what we later decide to observe. Let that sink in. Or future observation can influence past events at the quantum level. Time itself becomes fluid, mutable, responsive to attention. In a holographic universe, this isn't surprising. Time, like space, may be part of the illusion, a projection generated by the deeper timeless field of consciousness. This opens the door to everything from psychic phenomena to synchronicity. If all points in space and time are connected, then communication across across these dimensions becomes plausible. If information is the substrate of reality, then thoughts, feelings, and intentions carry more weight than we ever imagined. Many scientists resist these ideas, and understandably so. They blur the line between science and spirituality, between physics and metaphysics, but the evidence continues to mount. The quantum world doesn't conform to our expectations. It doesn't care about boundaries. And the holographic model, it's gaining traction. String theory, black hole thermodynamics, and quantum gravity all seem to point in its direction. Even our brains appear to process information holographically, but we'll return to that in part 6. Right now, let's stay focused on what this means for you. It means that your reality, your entire experience of life is not fixed. It's malleable, it's malleable, it's fluid. You are not a passive observer of the cosmos. You are a participant, a co-creator. Quantum physics, when viewed through the lens of the holographic model, reclaims something long lost in modern science: the power of the individual. It places awareness at the center, recognizes consciousness not as a byproduct, but as a fundamental element of the universe. This is not mysticism. This is physics. Radical, precise, beautiful. And it all points to one truth: reality is not as it seems. It's stranger, deeper, more magical than we've been taught to believe. We are living in a quantum hologram, a dream within a dream, a projection shaped by fields and thoughts, waves and will, particles and perception. And you, yes, you are the observer who brings the dream to life. If we truly are living in a holographic universe, projected from an informational source beyond time and space, then we must begin to ask deeper questions. Not just about atoms and energy, but about meaning, about consciousness, about the hidden intelligence behind the veil of matter. Because in this model, the universe is not random. It's intelligent, it's participatory, it responds to thought, belief, and awareness. In other words, your consciousness isn't trapped in the universe. The universe might be arising within your consciousness. A radical notion, but not a new one. It echoes the ancient spiritual insight that as within, so without. That outer reality is a mirror of inner states. Quantum physicist John Wheeler once said, "We are participants in bringing into being not only the near and here, but the far away and long ago." He introduced the concept of the participatory universe, a universe that comes into existence only through observation. This doesn't mean the world vanishes when you close your eyes, but it does suggest that reality isn't fixed until it's experienced, that there is a field of infinite possibilities, and we collapse it into form through our attention. It's like tuning a radio. The signal is already there, vibrating in the ether, but until you dial in the right frequency, you won't hear the music. Your mind is the tuner. Your focus selects the song. This idea is supported by quantum superposition. Particles can exist in multiple states at once. Only when observed do they choose a position. What collapses the wave function into a particle? What turns potential into experience? The answer, once again, points to the observer. And if the observer is not separate from the universe, but embedded within its structure, then observation itself becomes a creative act. You are not seeing the world, you are selecting it, moment by moment. This view redefines the law of cause and effect. It doesn't deny causality, but it reveals a hidden layer beneath it, where causes may not be linear or physical, but informational, conscious. Let's revisit the concept of entanglement for a moment. Two particles, once connected, remain linked across any distance. A change in one instantly affects the other. Einstein called it spooky action at a distance, but it's not spooky, it's reality. And in a holographic model, it makes perfect sense. Because in a hologram, every part is a reflection of the whole. Change one part, and the whole adjusts. There is no true separation. This has implications far beyond physics. It suggests that human beings are not isolated minds in bodies, but interconnected nodes in a vast field of consciousness. They influence each other, not just emotionally, but energetically, through thought, through intention. Have you ever thought about someone, only for them to text you moments later? Have you walked into a room and felt the energy shift without a word spoken? These aren't just coincidences. They may be manifestations of the holographic field, information traveling through non-local connections. In this framework, your mind is not confined to your skull. It is part of a greater field, a vast, intelligent matrix that we all contribute to and draw from. This is why meditation, visualization, and focused intention work. They tune your frequency. They collapse certain probabilities. They align your mind with the image you wish to project. Quantum mechanics through the holographic lens shows us that reality is not solid. It is malleable, like clay in the hands of the sculptor, and the sculptor is you. This perspective bridges the gap between science and mysticism. It unites the hard data of physics with the wisdom of the ages. What shamans, sages, and seers have known for millennia, modern science is beginning to glimpse. Not long ago, scientists laughed at the idea of consciousness affecting matter. Now they build experiments to measure it. We are entering an era where the veil is lifting, where reality is no longer a machine, but a living mirror. A mirror that responds to your gaze, to your belief, to your story. So what story are you telling? What reality are you choosing? Are you living as a victim of external forces, or as a creator of inner power? Quantum physics doesn't give you a rigid answer. It gives you a canvas, a stage, a field of infinite potential. The rest is up to you. You can choose fear, or choose faith. You can focus on limitation, or on possibility. Because in the holographic universe, what you see is what you get. Not because the universe is deceiving you, but because you are projecting it from the inside out. Let's end this part with a quiet realization. Reality is not waiting to be discovered. It's waiting to be remembered. You already know, at the core of your being, that the world is not as it seems, and you are far more powerful than you've been told. The quantum world is your mirror. It is fluid, alive, and it's listening. Part 5. David Bohm's Implicate Order. When we look at the universe through the lens of quantum physics, we find a strange and fluid world, one where certainty dissolves and mystery takes the lead. But while many physicists struggle to reconcile this with the rigid logic of classical science, one man went further. He didn't just accept the mystery, he explored it, he gave it structure, and in doing so, he changed how we understand the very fabric of reality. His name was David Bohm. A theoretical physicist with a mind as expansive as the cosmos itself, but also a philosopher, a visionary, and someone who dared to question the limits of mainstream science. Bohm believed that the universe was not fragmented, not a collection of separate things floating in space, but a deeply interconnected whole, a seamless web of information and meaning. He called this deeper reality the implicate order, a level beneath what we see and touch, a hidden dimension where everything is unfolded into everything else, where space and time themselves are only surface appearances, ripples on the skin of a much vaster ocean. Let's imagine this with a simple metaphor. Picture a sheet of paper. On the surface of the sheet you draw different shapes, a circle, a square, a triangle. They appear separate, they have boundaries, they seem to exist independently, but beneath them there is only one paper, one substance. Their separateness is an illusion, because they arise from the same source. This, Bohm argued, is how our universe works. The things we see, objects, people, events, are like shapes on the paper, apparent divisions, but beneath them is the implicate order, a single, flowing wholeness. In contrast, the world we normally perceive is the explicate order, the unfolded, visible, measurable world. It's where matter takes form, where things appear solid and distinct. But it's not the ultimate reality, it's a projection. This idea closely mirrors the holographic model. In a hologram, every part contains the whole. And so in Bohm's vision, the implicate order is holographic by nature. Every particle contains information about the entire universe. Each piece of reality is a window into the whole. But Bohm took this idea even further. He saw the universe not just as structured by hidden information, but as a process of continuous unfolding. A reality, he said, is not a static thing. It's movement, flow, a dynamic dance between the implicate and explicate order. Imagine a film projector. The film itself is hidden in the reels, but when light passes through it, the images unfold onto the screen. The implicate order is like the film, the source, the code. The explicate order is the movie you see on the screen. It seems real, it moves, it has shape and time, but it's all a projection. And just like a film can be rewound, paused, or played forward, Bohm believed that reality is not locked into a single direction. It can evolve, it can shift, it can surprise us. This ties directly into the idea of consciousness, because in Bohm's view, consciousness is not confined to the brain. It too is part of the implicate order, a fundamental feature of reality, not a byproduct of neurons but a participant in the unfolding of the world. This means your thoughts are not private echoes in a sealed-off mind. They ripple through the field. They influence the flow. They are creative acts. Let's return to the metaphor of the hologram. If every part contains the whole, then you are not just a person observing the universe. You are the universe, observing itself from a unique point of view. You are both the drop and the ocean. Bohm's work was deeply influenced by his relationship with Krishnamurti, a philosopher and spiritual teacher. Together they explored the nature of thought, awareness, and inner stillness. They spoke of insight, not just intellectual knowledge, but a kind of direct seeing, a perception of the whole that goes beyond words. In their dialogues, Bohm often said that the fragmentation of the modern world, our conflicts, divisions, anxieties, comes from thinking that separates. We think in terms of me and you, this and that. We divide what is into categories and concepts. But in reality, there is no separation, only unity appearing as diversity. When you see this, not as an idea but as a lived truth, something shifts. You begin to operate from a deeper intelligence. You stop trying to control everything from the surface, and instead, you trust the flow. The implicate order becomes not just a theory but a way of, a recognition that what you do to another, you do to yourself, because at the deepest level there is no other. Everything is unfolded into everything. Every moment contains all moments, and in this dance of unfolding, we are both observers and creators. Bohm's ideas were not widely accepted by mainstream physics, but they resonated with those on the edges, mystics, artists, seekers of deeper truth, because at their core, his theories invite us to move beyond materialism, beyond reductionism, and into a worldview that is alive, interconnected, sacred, a universe not of dead matter but of living meaning. And the implications are profound, because if reality is a holographic unfolding, and if consciousness is part of that unfolding, then transformation is always possible, not just in the external world, but in the deepest layers of being. The implicate order is not far away. It is here, now, waiting to be felt, waiting to be remembered. To truly grasp Bohm's implicate order, we must challenge how we define reality. Most of us are taught to believe only in what we can measure, touch, or test. If it doesn't fit into the box of physical science, we often dismiss it as illusion or fantasy. But Bohm questioned this very assumption. He asked, what if the reality we observe is just a shadow of something far deeper? Just like Plato's allegory of the cave, where prisoners see only the flickering shadows on a wall, mistaking them for reality, we too may be observing mere shadows, mere projections, of a deeper order we cannot see directly. Bohm wasn't alone in his suspicions. He saw parallels in art, in music, in mysticism. He noticed how great symphonies carried hidden structure beneath their melody, how a simple theme could evolve, fold into itself, echo back, only to unfold again in a new, transformed way. This wasn't chaos, it was coherent movement, a harmony unfolding through time. To him, the universe was like this. Not a mechanical clock, but a living symphony. Not random, but profoundly ordered, just ordered in a way we cannot always perceive with our senses. And if this is true, then science must evolve too. It must learn to listen, not just to measure, to look inward as well as outward, to see the implicate not as myth, but as method. In one of his most powerful metaphors, Bohm compared the implicate order to a stream, a flowing movement that carries forms into being and back into dissolution, like eddies in a river. Imagine a vortex forming in water. It takes shape for a moment. It moves. It has a clear boundary. And then, just as suddenly, it dissolves. Its form disappears, but the water remains. The field remains. Bohm believed that all matter behaves like this, a temporary appearance, a ripple in a deeper field. from atoms to galaxies, from cells to stars. All of it, he believed, emerges from the same invisible stream, the implicate order. This perspective challenges the notion of fixed identity. If everything is flow, then nothing is permanent. Not your thoughts, not your body, not even yourself. You are a process, a dynamic unfolding, a wave on the ocean of existence. And yet in that wave, there is purpose, direction, meaning. Bohm didn't stop at physics. He extended his ideas into language and society. He believed that fragmentation in thought leads to fragmentation in the world, that how we think affects how we live. He introduced the concept of dialogue, not just conversation, but a shared exploration, a form of communication where participants suspend judgment, listen deeply, and allow insight to emerge from the collective field. In this way, Bohm wasn't just describing the universe, he was modeling how we could live within it, in relationship, in presence, in unity. His dialogues with Krishnamurti often return to this core idea that truth is not a fixed thing to be captured, but a movement to be sensed. That truth arises not from control, but from surrender, from listening, from attunement. This is the same principle we find in spiritual traditions across the world. The Tao, the flow of Qi, the Great Spirit, the Akasha, all speak to a subtle, hidden realm from which the visible world arises, and all point to the same truth: there is more to reality than meets the eye. In this way, Bohm was a bridge, a scientist who saw the value in mysticism, a physicist who listened for silence. He didn't reject science, he expanded it. He invited it to grow beyond the boundaries of empirical reduction, to become a tool not just for prediction, but for transformation. Because what if the implicate order is not just about particles and waves? What if it's about meaning? What if the universe is not just information, but intelligence? Not just pattern, but purpose? This idea terrified many, because it meant stepping beyond control. It meant accepting that we don't command reality, we participate in it. That we are not observers looking, we are co-creators from within. This is what Bohm meant when he said the implicate order is a flowing movement, in which there is no ultimate distinction between what is and what is known. In this view, knowledge is not separate from the known. The knower is not separate from the seen. Consciousness is not a passive screen. It is the mirror that reflects the light and simultaneously creates the reflection. This is more than metaphor. It is a call to awaken, to recognize the implicate order in every breath, to see the wholeness behind the parts, to live as if the universe is intelligent, because it is. And in doing so, something shifts. The world is no longer a dead machine. It becomes a living mirror, a sacred dance of energy and form. This is what mystics have said for millennia. And Bohm, through science, rediscovered their wisdom, not to replace it, but to translate it, to offer a new language for the ancient truth, that beneath all appearances there is unity, and in that unity we find freedom. Not the freedom to escape the world, but the freedom to see it clearly, to act from wholeness, to love from presence, to awaken, not apart from life, but through it. David Bohm gave us a map, not of the outer cosmos, but of the inner structure of reality itself. And as we follow that map, not with belief, but with awareness, we begin to see what was always there. A field of infinite depth, a holographic sea of unfolding possibility, a universe where meaning moves like wind through the trees. And we, each of us, are not separate leaves. We are the movement itself. Part 6. Karl Pribram and the brain as a hologram. In the grand journey of understanding the holographic universe, we now turn to the mind itself, specifically the brain. Not as a biological machine, but as a holographic interface with reality. This next step in the puzzle brings us to the groundbreaking work of Dr. Karl Pribram. Pribram was a renowned neurophysiologist who had studied the brain for decades, contributing vast knowledge to our understanding of memory, perception, and behavior. But something never quite added up. The classical model of brain function, where different areas are responsible for isolated tasks, seemed incomplete. There were too many strange anomalies, too many mysteries. One of the most persistent mysteries was the nature of memory. Where exactly is memory stored in the brain? Early neuroscientists believed it was localized, that specific memories were stored in specific regions, like files in a cabinet. But then came experiments, many of them performed on animals, that told a different story. When parts of a rat's brain were surgically removed, the rat still remembered how to run a maze it had been trained on. Even when large sections were taken out, the memory persisted. Some degradation occurred, yes, but the essential information remained intact. This puzzled researchers. If memories were stored like files, removing the cabinet should destroy the file. But it didn't. This led Pribram to suspect something radical. That memory wasn't stored in a specific place. It was distributed, spread out. Not only that, it was encoded in a way that bore a striking resemblance to something he had encountered elsewhere. The hologram. When Pribram encountered David Bohm's work on the implicate order and the holographic nature of reality, something clicked. He realized that the very same principles might apply to the human brain. That perhaps the brain didn't store memories in a fixed location at all, but instead created interference patterns, much like a hologram. In a holographic image, the information is not localized. It's stored in the frequency domain. When you shine light through it, the image is reconstructed. And here was Pribram's insight. The brain may be doing the exact same thing with reality. The brain might be decoding a frequency-based universe. And what we experience as reality, what we see, hear, touch, remember, is not the thing itself, but a reconstruction, a projection, a hologram. Pribram began to develop this theory in collaboration with quantum physicists and other neuroscientists. He suggested that the brain operates in the frequency domain, using Fourier transforms to decode the hidden dimensions of experience. Fourier mathematics is what allows a computer to convert waveforms into usable signals. In other words, turning frequency into form. And according to Pribram, your brain may be doing this constantly. Your thoughts, perceptions, and sensations are the product of this decoding process. He even went so far as to suggest that the external world, the so-called objective reality, is fundamentally different from what we perceive. That what we think is out there is actually constructed in here within the vast electromagnetic symphony of the brain. This idea, radical though it was, helped explain several paradoxes in neuroscience. For example, how the brain can recognize patterns from partial information. How memory is not easily erased, even when damage occurs. How we can suddenly remember something we hadn't consciously noticed. All of these phenomena are consistent with a holographic model. In a hologram, every piece contains the whole. Even a small fragment can reconstruct the entire image. So too perhaps with memory. So too perhaps with consciousness itself. But Pribram didn't stop at memory. He extended his theory into perception. And what he found was equally astonishing. Visual perception, for instance, does not occur in a linear step-by-step fashion. The retina receives light. That information is converted to electrical signals. These signals are processed in the visual cortex, but what emerges from this process is not a raw image. It is a constructed experience. Your brain doesn't just passively receive reality. It assembles it. It interprets it. It creates it. And just like a hologram, your perception of the world is three-dimensional, richly detailed, and immersive, yet entirely dependent on the frequencies your brain is tuned to decode. This raises a profound question. If the brain is decoding a holographic universe, what determines what it decodes? What governs which version of reality we experience? Is it biology? Is it programming? Is it programming? Is it consciousness itself? Pribram opened the door to these questions, but he didn't claim to have all the answers. What he offered was a model, a bridge between the physical and the metaphysical, between brain science and the deeper mysteries of consciousness. And through that model, something extraordinary becomes possible. If the brain is a holographic processor, then perhaps it is not just reflecting reality. Perhaps it is generating it. This would mean that consciousness does not emerge from the brain. Rather, the brain is a receiver, a tuning device. And consciousness is a field, a vast, implicate dimension that the brain taps into. This flips the materialist model on its head. Instead of brain first, then consciousness, it's consciousness first. and the brain is merely the interpreter. This aligns with many spiritual and philosophical traditions. The idea that the mind is not confined to the body, that awareness is not located behind your eyes, but everywhere. Pribram's work invites us to imagine the mind as a holographic field, one that stretches beyond the limits of space and time. And if this is true, it could explain psychic phenomena. It could explain intuition. It could explain synchronicities and shared visions, and the unspoken bonds we feel with others. All of these may be forms of information exchange within a holographic field, frequencies that resonate across minds because they are not separate minds at all, just variations of the same hologram. We will continue this journey in the next section where the brain, frequency, and consciousness merge even more deeply into the mystery. To understand just how revolutionary Pribram's theory is, we must pause and reflect on the assumptions it challenges. Most modern neuroscience operates from a materialist foundation, that the brain is a biological machine, that consciousness is a byproduct of neurons firing, that perception is the result of sensory input being processed in a linear, mechanistic way. But Pribram's holographic model suggests something radically different, that the brain is not a storage device, not a container of thoughts, but a receiver and transmitter, interfacing with patterns that exist outside of space and time. This opens the door to a completely new way of thinking about consciousness. It's not confined within the skull. It is non-local. It extends beyond the physical. Experiments in neuroplasticity support this view. When one part of the brain is damaged, other parts can adapt and take over its function. This kind of flexibility implies that information is not rigidly locked in place. It's malleable, distributed, just like a hologram. And there's more. Split brain studies where the two hemispheres of the brain are surgically separated have shown that each hemisphere can still access complete memories and function independently. This again supports the idea that memory and identity are not located in just one spot. They are distributed. Now imagine this: if every part of your brain contains the whole, then damaging any part doesn't erase you, it only distorts the signal. This is why people can suffer brain injuries and still retain deep aspects of themselves. Their consciousness is not lost. It's just been interrupted. And here's where Pribram's model becomes even more compelling. He believed that the brain doesn't just decode reality, it creates the appearance of reality by interpreting frequency patterns from a deeper order of existence. This is strikingly similar to what David Bohm described as the implicate order. Pribram's theory provided the biological complement to Bohm's physics, where Bohm described the universe as a vast sea of unfolded information. Pribram proposed the brain as the device that unfolds it. Think about that. The brain is not simply watching a movie of life. It's generating the picture on the screen. The implications of this are staggering. It suggests that reality as we know it is entirely constructed. That what you see, hear, and feel is not the world out there, but the interpretation of a deeper vibrational field. And this interpretation is unique to you. Your beliefs, your expectations, your thoughts, all of them act as filters. They don't just color perception, they shape it. In a holographic brain, these filters adjust the frequencies your brain decodes. Change your filters, and you change the reality you perceive. This aligns with ancient teachings across many traditions. The yogis, the mystics, the sages, they've long claimed that the world is an illusion, a projection. Maya, they call it in the Vedas, a dream according to the Gnostics, a veil according to the Sufis. And now, through the lens of Pribram's work, we begin to see how science may finally be catching up. If the brain is a holographic decoder, then spiritual awakening might be nothing more than a shift in frequency, the tuning of your internal antenna. You begin to receive a broader spectrum of information. You see connections that others miss. You sense the underlying unity beneath all things. In practical terms, this theory could explain phenomena that science has traditionally rejected: remote viewing, telepathy, precognition, near-death experiences. If information is non-local, if it's stored in the frequency domain, then distance is irrelevant. So is time. You could theoretically access information from the future or the past, because it's all stored in the same field, just waiting to be decoded. And the decoder is you. This brings us to the most empowering part of Pribram's model. It implies that you are not a passive observer of reality. You are a co-creator. Every thought you have is a frequency, every belief you hold is a filter, and every feeling you embody is part of the code your brain uses to shape the world you see. So what happens when you change the code? What happens when you raise your frequency? The hologram changes, your relationships shift, your circumstances evolve, new opportunities appear seemingly out of nowhere. But it's not random. It's a direct result of your internal tuning. Pribram's work suggests that spiritual practices, like meditation, visualization, affirmation, are not just psychological tools. They are vibrational tools. They alter your internal frequency. They reshape the holographic image you experience as your life. This also gives deeper meaning to practices like prayer or intention setting. When you send a thought out into the field, it doesn't just disappear. It interacts with the holographic matrix. It shifts the interference patterns, and eventually, it reflects back to you. This is not metaphor, it's science, or rather it's the new science. The bridge between physics and mysticism, neuroscience and spirit, and Karl Pribram was one of its first architects. He gave us a new model of the mind, one that breaks free from the outdated view of the brain as a biological computer. Instead, he showed us the brain as a lens, a portal, and beyond that portal lies the implicat order, the formless sea of possibilities from which all things arise. You are not separate from it, you are it, and your brain, your mind, your heart, are the instruments that make the unseen seen. Karl Pribram's insights did not emerge in a vacuum. They were the result of decades of research, collaboration, and a deep curiosity about the mysteries of human consciousness. His work began to resonate with a growing number of scientists, psychologists, and spiritual thinkers who had long suspected that the universe and the human experience within it was far more mysterious than traditional models allowed. One of the core ideas that fascinated Pribram was how perception itself is constructed. When you see a tree, what are you actually seeing? Are you witnessing a solid object made of bark and leaves? Or are you interpreting waveforms, patterns of light and energy, that your brain assembles into the image of a tree? According to Pribram, the answer is the latter. Your brain does not see things. It decodes frequencies. It translates vibration into form, and that form is what we call reality. In the holographic model, perception is not just a process of recognition, it's an act of creation. The outer world and the inner world are not separate. They are interconnected. They reflect one another. This brings us to a profound realization. If the brain is constructing the image of the world, then your experience of life is not dictated by external circumstances. It is shaped by the internal programs running within you. These programs include your beliefs, your memories, your traumas, your hopes, and your fears. Each of these elements contributes to the holographic pattern your brain interprets. This is why two people can look at the same situation and see something entirely different. One sees danger, the other sees opportunity. One feels fear, the other feels inspired. The other feels inspired. The difference is not in the situation, it is in the observer, in the mind. This is where the teachings of ancient wisdom traditions echo powerfully through the lens of Pribram's model. The Buddha taught that the mind is everything. What you think, you become. In the Vedas, the seers described the universe as being born of vibration of sound. The primordial frequency, was seen as the source of all creation. Now modern science begins to glimpse the same truth. Everything is vibration, and the brain is the interpreter, the projector, the receiver. So what happens when we become aware of this power? When we realize that the world we experience is not fixed but fluid, that we are not stuck within reality, but actively shaping it. It awakens something ancient within us, the awareness that we are creators, that consciousness itself is primary, not the byproduct of biology, but the force that animates it. Karl Pribram's model helps to bridge the gap between science and spirituality. He showed us that the brain is not simply an organ. It is an interface with the infinite, and just as a hologram can be split into many parts with each part still containing the whole, so too is each human being a reflection of the greater whole. The universe is within you, encoded, waiting to be remembered. This also explains the phenomena of intuition, of sudden insights, of synchronicities that seem to come from nowhere. They are not accidents, They are the expressions of a deeper field of intelligence, one that your holographic brain can tap into. We see glimpses of this intelligence in moments of flow, when time disappears, when the boundaries between self and world dissolve, when you feel connected to something greater. Pribram's model validates these experiences. It shows that they are not delusions. They are moments when the brain tunes into a deeper frequency, when it decodes information from the field, and in doing so brings the unseen into awareness. It also gives us hope, because it means that healing is possible, that transformation is real. If the brain can rewire itself, if reality is constructed by interpretation, then we can begin to consciously reprogram our inner world. We can release old patterns. We can shift our focus. We can choose a new lens. And when we do, the hologram responds. The outer world begins to change. Because it must. It is a reflection, a mirror. This is not to say that the world is unreal, but rather it is not what it appears to be. It is deeper, layered, encoded, and you are the decoder. In the end, Karl Pribram left us with a question, a challenge, a doorway. What if your mind is not confined to your brain? What if your consciousness is not local but universal? What if the answers you seek are already here, humming in the frequencies all around you, waiting for your awareness to tune in? The holographic brain is not a fantasy. It is a frontier, a map to understanding who we are and what we are capable of becoming. Pribram showed us that the limits we experience are not imposed from outside. They are self-imposed. They are reflections of the patterns we've been taught to decode. But the moment we change the pattern, the moment we awaken, we begin to see a new world. A world where everything is connected, where information flows like light, where each of us is a beam in the holographic whole. And in that knowing, we begin to remember, not just who we are, but what we are. Light, frequency, consciousness itself. And so, as we close this chapter on Karl Pribram and the brain as a hologram, we don't end the story. We simply shift the lens, to look deeper, to question more, and to realize that within you lies the entire universe, waiting to be seen, waiting to be remembered, waiting to be awakened. Part 7. Ancient spiritual teachings that mirror this theory. Long before the language of quantum physics and neuroscience existed, before lasers and frequencies and brainwave mapping, there were whispers in the temples and the forests, in the deserts and the mountains, in the hearts of mystics and sages who stared not at equations but at the fabric of reality through silence, vision, and intuition. They did not call it the holographic universe, but they lived it, they breathed it, and they passed it down through myths, symbols, and sacred texts. From Egypt to India, from China to the Americas, the teachings echoed a unified truth. The world you see is not the whole truth. It is a dream, a projection of mind and spirit. In the ancient land of Kemet, now known as Egypt, this truth was encoded in the Hermetic teachings, attributed to Thoth, the god of wisdom, and later known as Hermes Trismegistus. These teachings were compiled in a body of work called the Hermetica. The first principle, the all is mind, the universe is mental. It is not physical matter that gives rise to thought. It is thought consciousness that gives rise to the material world. This teaching mirrors the very heart of the holographic universe theory. Reality is not external and objective. It is a mental projection, a hologram cast from the divine mind. And just as every part of a hologram contains the whole, so too does every soul contain the all. In India, the ancient rishis saw the universe as Maya, an illusion, not in the sense that it is fake or meaningless, but that it is transient, ever-changing, not the ultimate reality. They spoke of Brahman, the unchanging, infinite consciousness that underlies all things, and of Atman, the individual soul, which is not separate from Brahman, but a reflection of it. You are that, the Upanishads proclaim. Tattvam Asi. You are not a drop in the ocean. You are the ocean in a single drop. This too echoes the holographic idea, that within each of us lies the totality, that the cosmos is not out there, it is within. The yogis taught that through meditation, Through turning inward, one could pierce the illusion of Maya and see the truth, that all forms are temporary, that consciousness is eternal. They saw the body and the mind not as prisons but as tools, instruments through which the soul experiences itself. They mapped the chakras, centers of energy that correspond with different states of being. They spoke of Kundalini, a coiled serpent at the base of the spine, that when awakened, brings enlightenment. All of this points to a universe made of energy, of frequency, of vibration, and where the attention goes, energy flows. The ancient Chinese sages had a similar understanding. In Taoism, the Tao is the source of all things. It cannot be named, it cannot be seen, but it gives rise to the world of forms. The Tao Te Ching, written over 2,000 years ago, begins, "The Tao that can be told is not the eternal Tao. The manifest world is not the true essence." Taoism emphasizes Wu Wei, effortless action, flowing with the current of the universe rather than resisting it. To live in harmony with the Tao is to align with the deeper order of existence. This mirrors the idea of tuning your consciousness to the right frequency. When you are in alignment, the universe seems to move with you. Synchronicities appear. Life feels fluid. Toll, the I Ching or Book of Changes, is another ancient Chinese text that reflects a holographic worldview that describes the universe as a web of patterns, constantly shifting. Each hexagram contains all possibilities, just as each piece of a hologram contains the image of the whole. The Native American traditions also carry this wisdom. The Lakota, the Hopi, the Navajo, many tribes spoke of the interconnectedness of all things, that what you do to one part of the web, you do to the whole, that the earth, the sky, the animals, the people, they are all relations, all one family. In the vision quests and sweat lodges, seekers would enter altered states, not to escape reality, but to see it more clearly, to step beyond the veil of everyday perception and touch the spirit that moves through all things. The Mayan and Aztec calendars mapped cycles within cycles, understanding time itself as a spiral, a holographic unfolding. The Egyptians aligned their temples to the stars, reflecting the macrocosm in the microcosm. As above, so below. As within, so without. This phrase, found in the Emerald Tablet of Hermes, captures the essence of it all. The outer world mirrors the inner. Change your consciousness, and you change your reality. Even in Christianity and Sufism, these ideas surface. Christ spoke in parables, in metaphors that pointed to a deeper truth. He said the kingdom of heaven is within you, that faith could move mountains, that those with eyes to see and ears to hear would understand. The mystics knew this was not just poetry, it was physics of the soul. The Sufi poets, Rumi, Hafiz, Ibn Arabi, wrote verses soaked in the understanding that the divine is not distant. It is immanent. It is within. Ibn Arabi wrote of the imaginal realm, a plane that bridges the spiritual and the physical, a realm that is just as real, if not more, than the world of matter. To the Sufis, the cosmos is the mirror through which God sees himself, a living, breathing hologram of the divine mind. In the Kabbalistic tradition of Judaism, the tree of life is not just a symbol of spiritual ascent. It is a map of consciousness, of emanations, 10 sephiroth, or spheres, through which the infinite light of the Creator flows into the world of form. According to Kabbalah, the material world is the final layer, Malkuth, the kingdom. But behind it lie deeper dimensions, energetic, mental, spiritual. Each layer reflects the others. Each sephira is within the others. Just like each part of a hologram holds the image of the whole. The Zohar, a mystical text within Kabbalah, speaks of the universe as being encoded in divine light. Light not of the sun, but of spirit. Light that carries wisdom, intention, and form. In Buddhism, especially in the Mahayana tradition, there is the concept of Indra's net. It is said to stretch infinitely in all directions. At every intersection of the net is a jewel, and each jewel reflects every other jewel. The whole is seen in every part. This image is almost a poetic description of the holographic universe, where each point in space and time contains information about the whole, where nothing is isolated, nothing is separate. The Buddha taught that the self is an illusion, that clinging to a fixed identity causes suffering. They spoke of emptiness, not as a void, but as potential, as the field from which all form arises and to which it returns. Reality, according to the Buddha, is like a dream, not unreal, but not ultimately real either. It depends on perception, on mind. The deeper you look, the more the self dissolves, the more you see that all things are interconnected processes, dancing patterns of energy. In Zen, this is called no mind. The realization that you are not your thoughts, not your name, not even your body. You are awareness itself, watching the movie of reality play out on the screen of consciousness. The indigenous traditions of Australia, the Dreamtime stories of the Aboriginal people, speak of a creation not locked in the past, but ongoing, a dream that is being dreamed even now, by the ancestors, by the land, by us. They believe that every mountain, every river, every tree is alive with meaning, that symbols and songs are not just cultural, but cosmic, that time is not linear, but circular, a spiral. This spiral of time also appears in the ancient Celtic and Druidic traditions. Their symbols, the trescula, the spiral, the knotwork, show movement, rhythm, and eternal return. They honored the land as sacred. They saw nature as a reflection of the divine. Even the Norse had their version of the great web, Yggdrasil, the world tree. Its roots and branches connect all the realms of existence, and from its depths, the runes emerged. Symbols not just of language, but of vibrational forces. In Hawaiian mysticism, the practice of Ho'oponopono is used to restore balance, to cleanse memory, to acknowledge that what appears out there is actually happening within. I'm sorry, please forgive me, thank you, I love you. This simple mantra heals relationships, events, and even past traumas. Not by changing the world, but by changing the frequency of your consciousness. In all of these ancient paths, there is one common message. You are not separate from the universe. You are not separate from the universe. You are the universe. Not a passive observer, but a co-creator, a projector, a holographic expression of the all. Modern science, through the language of photons, neurons, and quantum fields, is finally echoing what these mystics and sages have known for thousands of years. That the veil between spirit and matter is thinner than we imagine, that reality is shaped by consciousness, and that meaning is not imposed on the universe. It is inherent in it. Symbols are not arbitrary, they are keys. Words are not just sounds, they are spell. Rituals are not superstitions, they are technologies, tools to tune the self to the frequency of truth. The ancients may not have had telescopes or particle accelerators, but they had inner sight. They journeyed through the mind, through the soul, and what they found is what we are now rediscovering, that the cosmos is not a machine, it is a mirror, and every reflection is Yoku. We are not the first to peer into the nature of reality and ask, what is this place? What am I? Where do I end? And where does the world begin? In truth, there is no end. There is no beginning. There is only flow. A ceaseless unfolding of awareness experiencing itself through form. The Upanishads whisper this truth. You are that. Not a fragment of creation, but its very heart. Not a character in the story, but the storyteller. The Tao Te Ching says, the Tao that can be named is not the eternal Tao. Because truth is too vast for language, too fluid for definition, but it can be felt, known in the stillness between thoughts, seen in the pattern of a leaf, heard in the silence behind a waterfall. In Hermetic philosophy, a lineage passed down through Egypt and into the Western mystery schools, the principle of as above, so below resounds like a bell. The macrocosm and the microcosm reflect each other. Just like a hologram, the stars and cells are governed by the same laws, the same rhythm. The emerald tablet, attributed to Hermes Trismegistus, speaks of the unity of all things. It says, that which is below corresponds to that which is above, and that which is above corresponds to that which is below. A dance of mirroring, of echoing patterns, of a cosmos folded in upon itself. In Gnostic Christianity, we are told that the world is not as it seems, that the material is a kind of illusion, a veil hiding a deeper truth. Not a lie, but a dream within a dream. The Gospel of Thomas, a text unearthed in the sands of Nag Hammadi, contains this powerful line: "Split a piece of wood, and I am there. Lift a stone, and you will find me." The divine is in everything, even the most ordinary, even the most broken. The Native American worldview sees the earth as a sacred being, not a resource, but a relative, not something to dominate, but something to remember. They speak of the Great Spirit, the invisible force that connects all life. They honor the medicine wheel, a circular symbol that represents the interconnectedness of all things. The four directions, the seasons, the elements, all in harmony, all holographically woven into the fabric of creation. Even within the sacred geometry of ancient temples and pyramids, we find a language of unity. The flower of life, the Sri Yantra, the Vesica Piscis. These are not just patterns, they are vibrational blueprints, symbols encoded with the structure of reality itself. And when we meditate upon them, we are tuning ourselves to the source. The Hopi speak of the fifth world, a new age of consciousness, where human beings awaken to their divine nature and remember that they are dreamers of the dream. The Mayans mapped cycles of time with breathtaking precision, not to predict doom, but to align with cosmic rhythms, to understand that time is not just minutes and hours, but frequency, a wave, a spiral. In ancient Africa, oral traditions carried the cosmic truths through generations. The Dogon people of Mali knew of invisible stars, Sirius B, before modern astronomy had the tools to confirm them. How could they know? Where did that knowledge come from? The ancients will tell you it came from within, from the inner eye, the source that connects all minds. The Aboriginal Dreamtime teachings of Australia speak of a time beyond time, where everything that was, is, and will be exists simultaneously. The land is not just ground, it is memory, it is story, and we are meant to walk in harmony with it. Buddhist teachings tell us that reality is a projection of the mind, that all phenomena are empty of inherent existence. It is not to say they don't exist, but that they do not exist independently. They arise in dependence upon causes, conditions, and the perceiver, just like a hologram. All of these wisdoms converge, not by coincidence, but because they were all looking into the same mirror, just from different angles. We are spiraling, individually and collectively, toward what the ancients would call remembrance. The universe is not a puzzle to be solved. It is a song to be heard, a myth to be lived. These ancient teachings, scattered across continents and cultures, are not separate paths. They are tributaries of the same river, flowing from the same source. And that source is you. You are not a drop in the ocean. You are the ocean in a drop. The holographic universe is not just an idea. It is an invitation to see through the illusion of separation, to awaken to the interconnected dance of life, to remember the old truths that never left. You have seen them in dreams, in déjà vu, in moments of awe, when time slowed and the veil grew. The ancients would tell you, you are dreaming the world into being, so dream wisely, dream beautifully, for every thought ripples through the web, every choice sends echoes across the realms. You are a node of consciousness, reflecting the whole, holding the pattern, shaping the dream. This is the great secret the mystics have always known. The universe is within you, and you are within the universe. Part 8. Reality as a projection of consciousness. Imagine for a moment that nothing outside of you is truly outside of you, that everything you perceive, everything you experience, every sight, sound, touch, emotion, and idea is occurring within the vast field of your consciousness. This is not merely a poetic notion. It is a proposition with profound implications. Across spiritual traditions, ancient wisdom, and now even emerging sciences, a bold idea is rising to the surface. That what we call reality is not a solid objective world that exists independently of us, but rather, it is a projection, an echo of consciousness itself. In the same way a movie is projected onto a screen, the world you see is projected onto the screen of your awareness. But unlike a typical film projector, the light source isn't behind you, it's within you. Every object, every experience is a ripple in the field of your mind, a dance of energy taking shape through your senses, your perceptions, your beliefs. And the moment you shift your focus, your inner frequency, the projection begins to change. It may not always be immediate, but it is inevitable. This is the crux of the ancient teachings that say, as within, so without, because there is no without, only the illusion of separation. Let us look to the wisdom of the East. In the yogic and Vedantic traditions of India, the term Maya is used to describe the illusion of the material world. Not an illusion as in a falsehood, but an illusion in that it is impermanent, ever-changing, and ultimately a projection of the inner self. In the Mandukya Upanishad, the cosmos is described not as something that exists independently, but as something dreamed by the Atman, the higher self. You are not simply in the dream, you are the dreamer. In Tibetan Buddhism, the teachings emphasize that all appearances are mind-made, that the external world is not truly external at all. Rather, it is consciousness taking form. Everything you see is mind. Everything you touch is awareness vibrating into form. The Zen masters would say, before enlightenment, chop wood, carry water. After enlightenment, chop wood, carry water. That the world looks different. Because you are different. Your consciousness determines what the world becomes for you. Not through control, but through alignment. The universe does not resist you. It reflects you. Modern science is beginning to echo these ideas in subtle and profound ways. Quantum physicists have found that particles behave differently when they are observed. The famous double-slit experiment showed that light can act as either a wave or a particle, depending on whether someone is looking. In the absence of observation, there is no definitive outcome, only probability. In essence, reality crystallizes when consciousness looks upon it. This led physicist John Wheeler to say, no phenomenon is a phenomenon until it is an observed phenomenon. In other words, the act of perception is what brings the universe into form. Mystics have always known this. The sages and seers, they sat in caves and deserts and mountaintops and listened. And what they heard was this: the world is not out there, it is in here. Carl Jung once wrote, who looks outside dreams, who looks inside awakens. Because within you lies the source of perception, the projector, the light. Even the physical body is not a static object. It is experienced within consciousness. When you feel pain, it is not in the body, it is in your awareness. When you close your eyes and imagine, the images are real to your nervous system. They affect your chemistry, your heart. So where is the boundary between the imagined and the real? Between the inner world and the outer world? Perhaps there is no boundary. Perhaps the very idea of a boundary is part of the illusion. This is where the holographic model becomes more than a metaphor. In a hologram, each part contains the whole. Every fragment reflects the full image. Consciousness operates the same way. You are not a fragment of the universe. You are the entire universe, localized. You are a focal point through which the all experiences itself. So when you look at the stars, you are the stars looking at themselves. When you speak, it is the one voice taking a new form. When you love, it is the universe recognizing itself. Reality is not something separate from you. It is inseparable. It is intimate. It is you. When you realize this, not just intellectually, but viscerally, in your bones and breath, everything changes. You begin to see the patterns. You begin to trust the signals. You begin to listen. You realize that the world is not reacting to you. It is responding to you. It is mirroring your beliefs, your emotions, your intentions. If you believe the world is dangerous, you will encounter fear. If you believe the world is full of opportunity, you will see doors where others see walls. If you carry love in your heart, the world will reflect it back to you. Because it is a projection, a dream moving through you. A song composed by the frequency you hold within. You are not powerless here. You are not adrift in a meaningless sea. You are a co-creator, a conscious participant in the unfolding of existence. And the more aware you become of this, the more lucid the dream becomes. To understand the depth of this projection, we must return to the mind itself. Not as a collection of thoughts or memories, but as the canvas upon which all experiences appear. Your thoughts, emotions, sensations, each one is a flicker on that canvas. But the canvas remains untouched. It is still, silent, timeless. This silent observer within you has no name. It does not age. It does not come and go. It witnesses. And that witnessing awareness is the source of projection. Modern consciousness research, neuroscience, and even philosophy now walk this fine line between external stimuli and internal experience. Where is the edge of awareness? Where does the world end and the self begin? The answer again and again seems to dissolve, like mist in sunlight. In your dream at night, your mind creates landscapes, people, entire narratives. They feel real. They follow laws of physics. You cry, you run, you fall in love, all inside your own head. But when you awaken, you realize it was all within you. It didn't happen to you, it happened through you. What if waking life is just a deeper layer of the same phenomenon? What if, right now, you are dreaming, but you haven't yet realized it? This was the perspective of many mystics, that we are in a lucid dream created by the higher mind, and that we can wake up within it, not by escaping it, but by recognizing its nature. You begin to see that the objects in your world are symbols. Each person, each event, each challenge, reflections of something in you. This is not solipsism, this is unity. Because if you are consciousness, and I am consciousness, and everything arises from consciousness, then all of it is one. There is no true separation, just different expressions of the same field. Just like waves are not separate from the ocean, they rise, fall, and return, but they never cease being water. Likewise, you arise as a temporary form. You play out your life, you touch others, you love, lose, grow, and eventually, you return to the vast ocean of being. But you were never not that ocean. Even now, as you listen, you are both the wave and the water, the form and the formless, the observer and the observed. In the holographic universe, the idea of location becomes blurry. Every part contains the whole. So too with your awareness. You are not located in your head. Consciousness is not confined to your skull. It radiates. It expands. It permeates all experience. In the field of non-dual awareness, this becomes a lived experience. You no longer feel like a person moving through space. You feel like space itself, containing all things. Not empty space, but full, alive, intelligent. The kind of space in which galaxies are born. The kind of space in which intuitions speak. You begin to realize consciousness is not passive. It does not simply witness the world. It shapes it. Your beliefs become architecture. Your emotions become color. Your attention becomes the spot. The moment you shift your inner world, you shift your projection. Not always instantly, but inevitably. It is why people who undergo deep inner transformation often say, the world looks different. Not because the world changed, but because they did. Their vibration changed. Their perception changed. The lens became clearer. The movie began to shift. We are, all of us, watching a movie of our own creation. And the film is edited moment by moment, based on what we choose to believe, to feel, to focus on. This is why ancient traditions taught inner stillness. Why meditation was a path to clarity. Because in silence, the projector becomes still. You begin to see not just the movie, but the source of the light. And that light is who you are. From this place of understanding, suffering becomes a messenger. Not a punishment, but a signal. Something in the projection asking to be seen, understood, healed. And joy becomes not a fleeting pleasure, but a resonance. A sign that your projection is in harmony with your true self. Life becomes art, not random chaos, but a symphony playing through you. Each person you meet is a mirror. Each challenge a lesson. Each moment an opportunity to shift the real. Not from force, but from awareness. You do not need to manipulate the projection. You only need to tune the source. When the light is clean, the image is clear. When the heart is open, the world reflects that openness. When the mind is still, reality flows with grace. This is not about escaping the world. It is about embracing it from a deeper level. Seeing it not as solid, but sacred. Not as fixed, but fluid. Not as out there, but as in here. Because in the end, there is no there. Only here. Only now. only this moment. The dream becomes lucid, and the dreamer awakens. If reality is a projection of consciousness, then each of us is both the artist and the canvas. We paint with thoughts, we shape with beliefs, we illuminate with awareness, and as the projector adjusts, the world reflects its changes. This is not just poetic language, it is practical truth. If you believe the world is dangerous, you see danger. If you believe the world is loving, you notice love. Your beliefs act like filters over a lens. They color everything. Even facts bend in your field of view. Science calls this confirmation bias. Spirituality calls it vibration. Both describe how your inner state creates your external experience. The reason your consciousness projects reality is not because it's trying to deceive you. It's trying to show you, to mirror back to you your own energy, so you can see it, know it, and ultimately transform it. The world is your teacher, but not in the way schools teach. It teaches through synchronicity, through emotional resonance, through patterns that repeat until awareness dawns. Have you noticed how life seems to echo your internal patterns? You attract the same kind of partner, the same challenges at work, the same fears again and again. These are not coincidences. They are loops within the projection, clues left by consciousness for you to uncover. And when you finally see them, something miraculous happens. The loop breaks, the pattern shifts, the movie changes. This is how healing works at a deep level. You don't heal by forcing the world to change. You heal by shifting your inner world, and then, effortlessly, the reflection transforms. The concept of reality being a projection also ties into the age-old teaching of non-attachment. If the world is a mirror, then clinging to its images is like falling in love with your reflection in water. It will ripple, it will distort. It was never the source, only the reflection. You begin to let go, not from apathy, but from wisdom. You still love, you still create, you still participate in the dream, but you know it for what it is, and so you are free. This is where inner peace begins, not in controlling life, but in realizing you are life. You are not the storm, you are the sky it moves through, and from that sky, the clouds pass more gently. Imagine now that your thoughts are the remote control. Each time you focus on fear, the projection grows darker. Each time you focus on gratitude, the scene brightens. Your emotions give feedback, not to punish but to guide. They tell you when your energy is aligned with your truth or not. Feelings are your compass. They help you navigate the dream consciously. This is why your state of being matters more than anything else. It's not about fixing the outer world. It's about tuning your inner signal. When the signal is clear, the projection becomes beautiful. Not because the world is perfect, but because you are aligned. Now consider this. What happens when two conscious projectors meet? Two awakened beings, each aware that their outer reality mirrors their inner state. They no longer blame. They no longer demand others change. They hold space for growth. They reflect love. This is the beginning of conscious community. A world where individuals understand their creative power, where responsibility replaces victimhood, where compassion replaces control, and it all begins with you. Not with a book, not with a teacher, but with a pause, a breath, a turning inward. In this very moment, you can feel it. The silent space behind your thoughts, the awareness that watches this unfolding. That space is not in your mind, it is your mind, the true mind, the spacious, infinite, holographic field of consciousness. Everything arises from it, and to it, everything returns. Even your identity is a ripple. Your name, your story, your past, all of it, beautiful ripples on the surface. But beneath the ripple is the ocean, and that ocean is you. You are not in the universe. The universe is in you. A projection, a sacred dream, 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 a sacred dream. Not to escape, but to embrace, to meet life fully, to love the reflection, to remember your true self behind the lens. This is the power of consciousness. This is the gift of awareness, and this is the path to freedom. Because the moment you realize reality is a projection, you realize you are the projector. And with that, everything changes. Part 9. The role of the observer. You create the image. In the previous sections, we've delved into the idea that reality is a projection of consciousness. But there's a crucial piece to the puzzle that we've only touched on briefly: the observer. The observer is the key to how the projection works. Without the observer, there is no projection. In other words, you are not just a passive participant in this universe. You are an active creator. The observer plays a dynamic role in shaping the nature of reality. Through your awareness and attention, you influence what appears in your experience. This is not some abstract philosophical idea. It's the foundation of modern physics and ancient spiritual teachings alike. In quantum physics, there's a phenomenon known as the observer effect. In simple terms, this refers to how the very act of observing something changes the outcome of an experiment. For example, when scientists observe a subatomic particle, its behavior changes depending on whether they are looking at it or not. This suggests that the act of observation itself plays a fundamental role in determining what exists in the physical world. But this idea is not new. Ancient traditions, from Buddhism to the teachings of the Hermetic laws, have long held that consciousness creates reality. The observer, your conscious awareness, does not simply watch the world unfold. It is an active force in shaping that world. What does this mean for you as an individual? It means that your attention is incredibly powerful. Where you place your focus determines what you foresee. What you pay attention to expands. Think about the last time you were deeply focused on something, whether it was a project, a conversation, or even a feeling. When you are absorbed in it, the world around you seems to fade into the background. Your attention becomes the lens through which reality is experienced. Now consider how the reverse happens when you become distracted. The moment you lose focus, the external world seems to gain strength. It's almost as if your attention has taken a step back, and the world steps forward, filling the space you've left vacant. This is the power of the observer. When you focus, you create. When you lose focus, you allow reality to unfold without your guidance. So how can you consciously use this power? The first step is awareness. You must become aware of where your attention is going at all times. Is it on fear? Is it on gratitude? Is it on what's not working, or on what's already beautiful in your life? Your attention is like a spotlight. Wherever it shines, the objects in that light become more vivid, more real. But if your focus is scattered, everything around you will seem blurry, indistinct, or even overwhelming. The key to mastery lies in conscious attention. To actively choose where your focus goes is to take control of your reality. It's the first step in stepping out of the illusion of separateness and recognizing your role as the creator. What happens when you place your focus on the higher aspects of your being, on love, peace, or creativity? You begin to experience more of those things. The image that reality projects begins to shift. You begin to see life in a new light, one that reflects the qualities of consciousness you are choosing to embody. This is not just philosophical, this is practical. Every time you choose where to place your attention, you are creating. You are becoming the image you focus on. This idea is echoed by the quantum physicist David Bohm, who proposed that the entire universe is interconnected through an underlying order. According to Bohm, the world we perceive with our senses is just a fragment of a deeper, unobservable reality, the implicate order. In this framework, the observer plays a central role in unfolding the potentialities of the implicate order into the explicit observable world. In other words, consciousness is not just a passive observer of the universe, it is a participating force. Through our observation, we bring potentiality into actuality. Similarly, in the teachings of the Hermetic laws, we learn that thought is the creator of reality. According to the law of mentalism, the all is mind. This suggests that everything that exists in the material world is at its core, a product of consciousness. You as the observer are not separate from the mind of the universe. You are the mind. Your thoughts, your attention, your awareness are the forces that shape the world around you. This is the deepest spiritual truth. When you understand this, you realize that you are never separate from the universe, but an active participant in its creation. The observer is not just a passive onlooker, as we've been conditioned to believe. The observer is the artist, the creator, and the sculptor of reality. Through your awareness, you shape the world. As you continue to cultivate this awareness, you begin to see the world not as something outside of you, but as an extension of your own consciousness. The separation between self and world dissolves. And with that, you come into your full power as the observer, the creator, the projector of the hologram. As we move deeper into the concept of the observer's role, it becomes essential to understand that your consciousness doesn't just create a passive image of the world. It actively participates in the formation of every moment, every experience. Each thought you think, each emotion you feel, and each intention you set adds to the unfolding reality. You are not merely experiencing the world, you are co-creating it with the universe itself. Imagine for a moment that reality is like a movie. This movie is unfolding in real time, and you are the viewer in the cinema. But here's the catch, you are also the director. You have the ability to shift the plot, change the scenes, and even alter the characters. How is this possible? It is possible because consciousness is not limited to simply observing, it is intimately connected to the very fabric of reality. When you observe something, you are influencing its expression in space-time. What you perceive, you also create. Let's consider a simple example. Imagine that you're walking through a forest, and your focus is on the beauty of the trees, the sound of the birds, the calmness of the environment. Your mind is engaged in this experience, fully present. In that moment, your consciousness is not only observing but interacting with the forest. The more you focus on the beauty, the more the forest seems to respond to your attention. The light becomes softer, the air fresher, and even the trees seem more alive. This is a perfect example of how the projection responds to your inner focus. It's as if the universe is reflecting your inner state. Now let's flip the scenario. Imagine you're walking through the same forest, but this time, your focus is on the darkness, the ominous feeling, and the potential dangers lurking around. In this scenario, your perception shifts. The same trees, the same air, and the same light now seem darker, more threatening. This shift doesn't occur because the forest has changed, it has remained the same. What has changed is your perception, your focus. This illustrates how the observer plays a role in shaping the experience. When you place your attention on fear, the projection becomes fearful. When you place your attention on peace, the projection becomes peaceful. The universe, in this sense, is a reflection of your internal state. But what if you could control your focus at will? What if you could intentionally direct your consciousness to focus on the aspects of reality that align with your desires and intentions? Would this not give you the power to shape your life more consciously? This is the true potential of the observer. When you are aware of your power as a creator, you can intentionally focus on aspects of your life that reflect what you want to experience. This does not mean you will be able to ignore challenges or unpleasant situations. However, it does mean you will have a deeper understanding of how to approach them. Rather than being overwhelmed by external circumstances, you learn to see them as opportunities for growth and expansion. You can shift your focus from the problem to the solution. You can shift your focus from the fear to the courage. And in doing so, you change the projection. The observer is not just a passive observer in this process. The observer is an active participant in the creation of reality. You are, in essence, a co-creator of the universe. And as such, the more you understand this dynamic, the more conscious and deliberate your creation becomes. As we've explored in earlier parts, the power of attention is extraordinary. But there is another aspect of the observer's role that is equally important: intention. Intention is the force that directs your attention. While attention is the spotlight that illuminates the path, intention is the will that guides it. When you set an intention, you are effectively telling the universe what you want to experience. But it's important to note that intention is not about forcing or demanding. Rather, it's about aligning with the flow of the universe, setting your focus in a way that allows the universe to support you. Intention is the seed that you plant in the soil of your consciousness. When you focus on this seed, nurture it with belief and trust, and water it with your energy, it will eventually grow into the experience you desire. In this way, the observer becomes a gardener. You are planting the seeds of your future reality. You tend to them with your thoughts, your beliefs, your actions, and in time they bloom into the world you've created. The observer, in essence, is both the creator and the creation. You are both the painter and the painting. The key is to realize creator and to consciously participate in the unfolding of your reality. When you do this, you step into your full power as a conscious being. You realize that the world is not something you must react to. It is something you can shape, mold, and create. You are no longer a passive player in the game of life. You are the architect, the sculptor, the director, the observer. This awareness is the beginning of true freedom. It is the freedom to create, to explore, to dream. And it is the freedom to live a life aligned with your deepest desires, without fear or limitation. The next section will explore how this power of the observer plays out in even deeper ways. We'll look at how you can shift timelines, access parallel realities, and navigate the infinite possibilities that exist in the holographic universe. For now, know this: the universe is not something that happens to you. It is something you are actively co-creating. And you, as the observer, hold the power to change the image at any time. To grasp the full extent of your role as the observer, it's essential to recognize that you aren't merely a passive bystander in this reality. You are the artist, the director, and the creator of the experiences you encounter. Your consciousness actively participates in the construction of your reality at every moment. Consider this: every thought you have, every emotion you experience, and every intention you set is like a brushstroke in the masterpiece that is your life. Each of these mental and emotional energies influences the canvas of reality, changing the image and direction of your experiences. This is why it's so important to be mindful of where your attention lies. What you focus on, you bring into sharper clarity. For instance, when you focus on a challenge, it often feels overwhelming, as though that obstacle is the center of your world. However, when you shift your attention to solutions, possibilities, and new perspectives, you change the narrative and invite new opportunities. The shift in your focus doesn't change the reality itself, but it changes how you perceive and engage with it. This is where your power lies as the observer. You have the ability to reshape your experiences by consciously redirecting your focus and attention. But this doesn't happen by force, it happens through awareness. Awareness allows you to notice when your attention is being consumed by negative patterns and refocus it on more empowering aspects of reality. Now let's consider how quantum physics aligns with this understanding. In the quantum realm, there is a phenomenon known as wave-particle duality. Particles, like electrons, behave as both waves and particles depending on whether they are being observed. This suggests that reality at its core exists as potential until an observer collapses it into a definite state. You are, in effect, the one who collapses this potential into a tangible experience. Your attention and observation are the forces that determine which of the infinite possibilities becomes actualized. When you observe an electron, for example, you are choosing its position and behavior in that moment. In the same way, you are the observer of your life, choosing what reality will unfold before you. In practical terms, this means that you have the ability to influence the experiences you encounter. When you actively direct your attention to specific outcomes, you are guiding the quantum potentialities into the direction you desire. Your focus, combined with intention, acts as the catalyst that shapes the fabric of your reality. But there's more to it than just focusing on what you want. It's not just about thinking positively, it's about understanding the deep connection between your consciousness and the universe. The universe, in its infinite wisdom, is constantly responding to the energy you emit. When you focus on peace, gratitude, and abundance, you invite more of those qualities into your experience. Think of your mind as a tuning fork. What you focus on tunes you into specific frequencies of reality. If you consistently focus on negativity, lack, or fear, you tune yourself into those frequencies. On the other hand, focusing on love, abundance, and possibility aligns you with a higher frequency of experience. This shift in frequency is not some abstract idea, it's a real, energetic shift. The more you align with positive and empowering thoughts, the more your reality reflects that alignment. This is how you become the creator of your world, not just an observer of it. To further illustrate, let's bring in the concept of intention. Intention is the guiding force that channels your focus in specific directions. While focus determines what you are aware of, intention decides the outcome. Your intention is the spark that lights the fire of your creation, directing the flow of energy and consciousness toward a particular goal or experience. When you set a clear intention, you are not just wishing for something to happen. You are aligning your consciousness with a desired outcome and actively drawing that outcome into your experience. Intention is the invisible thread that links your desires to your actions, and ultimately, to the reality that unfolds. This is where your creative power as the observer becomes even more evident. It's not just about passive observation, it's about conscious participation in the unfolding of your life. You are the one who directs the flow of energy, the one who sets the course of your reality. And here's the most empowering part. This power is always available to you. No matter your circumstances or your past, you can choose to become the observer who consciously shapes your experience. You are never at the mercy of an unchangeable world. The world is a reflection of you, and you have the power to change it at any time. As you continue to cultivate your awareness and understanding of the observer's role, you will begin to see more clearly how you are actively shaping your experiences. This is not magic, but rather a profound truth of how reality operates. When you embrace your power as the observer, you begin to see the world as an extension of your own consciousness. Your thoughts and attention are like keys that unlock doors to new realities. The more you consciously use them, the more you unlock the hidden potential of the universe. And as you do, you will find that your life begins to transform in ways you never imagined possible. Part 10: Parallel Realities and Timeline Shifting. Reality is not as fixed as it might seem. The universe is not a single, unchanging stream of events, but a vast, interconnected web of possibilities, each one existing in parallel to the others. These parallel realities represent different versions of yourself, different outcomes, and different versions of the world you live in. In this section, we'll explore the fascinating concept of parallel realities and how the shifting of timelines plays a role in the holographic universe. Imagine for a moment that you are standing at a crossroads, and each path ahead represents a different possible future. In one future, you might find yourself successful, living your dream life. In another, you might struggle with failure and obstacles. And in yet another, perhaps you find yourself living a quiet, peaceful life, far removed from the hustle and bustle of the world. All of these realities exist simultaneously. This may sound strange, but in the context of quantum physics and the holographic model, it makes perfect sense. Quantum mechanics tells us that particles exist in a state of probability, not certainty. They are in all possible positions at once, and only when observed do they collapse into a specific state. Similarly, your life is not a singular, predetermined path. Instead, it is a series of potentialities that exist simultaneously, waiting to be actualized by your decisions and focus. You are not locked into one version of reality. You are constantly shifting between these parallel realities, guided by the thoughts, emotions, and intentions that you choose to focus on. Every choice you make is a doorway to a different timeline. The life you are living right now is just one of many possibilities, and your ability to shift between these realities is rooted in your consciousness. This process is known as timeline shifting. Timeline shifting occurs when you align your thoughts, feelings, and actions with a particular version of reality, thereby bringing that reality into focus. It's like tuning a radio to a specific frequency. The moment you shift your focus, you align with a different timeline, one where the reality you desire is already in motion. But how does this work in practice? The first step is understanding that your consciousness plays an active role in shaping the timeline you experience. When you focus on a particular outcome, you begin to shift your energy toward that outcome. For example, if you want to experience more abundance in your life, you must shift your attention away from scarcity and focus on the possibilities of abundance. When you make this shift, you begin to resonate with the energy of abundance. This frequency draws similar experiences into your life, opening doors to new opportunities and aligning you with a timeline where abundance is the norm. Your thoughts and emotions are the tuning mechanisms, and your actions are the steps that follow. By aligning all these aspects of your being with the version of reality you desire, you begin to shift your timeline toward that reality. It's important to note that timeline shifting isn't about changing external circumstances immediately. It's about changing your internal state first. When you change your state of mind, your perceptions of the world shift, and the world around you begins to reflect those changes. In this way, you begin to resonate with the version of reality that reflects your inner alignment. You can also shift timelines through deep emotional shift. For example, if you feel stuck in a negative situation, try to consciously shift your emotional state to one of gratitude, hope, or excitement. This emotional shift can act as a gateway to a different timeline where things are more aligned with the new emotional frequency. This shift doesn't require you to force things to happen. It's more about opening yourself up to the possibility that different outcomes exist and aligning with the one you want to experience. In some cases, timeline shifts can happen instantaneously, while in other situations they may take time to manifest. The key is to maintain your focus on the new reality, even when the external world doesn't immediately reflect the change. This is where faith comes in, faith in the process and in your ability to consciously create your life. You are always shifting between different versions of yourself, different versions of your reality. In some timelines, you may be living a life of abundance and joy, while in others, you might experience hardship and struggle. The beauty of this concept is that you are never locked into one timeline. At any moment, you can choose to shift your focus and energy toward a more aligned version of your life. This doesn't mean that every challenge will disappear immediately, but it does mean that you gain the ability to navigate those challenges with a sense of empowerment. Rather than feeling stuck, you realize that you have the ability to shift your focus and enter a timeline where the challenges are easier to handle or even dissolve altogether. The more you understand the nature of parallel realities, the more you realize that everything is in constant flux. Your current reality is simply a result of your past choices and your present focus. But as you change your focus, you are effectively choosing a new timeline and a new version of yourself. In this way, you are the master of your destiny, shaping your future with every thought, emotion, and action. In the next part of this video, we'll explore how you can fine-tune this process, identifying specific techniques and practices that can help you consciously shift timelines and experience the reality you desire. To begin consciously shifting timelines, the most important step is to become aware of the reality you currently inhabit. This doesn't mean you have to dwell on the negative or the limitations of your present situation, but rather it means acknowledging where you are, so you can take intentional action to move toward a new reality. Awareness allows you to identify the aspects of your life that no longer align with the version of reality you wish to experience. This is the foundation of timeline shifting, becoming present to your current state, so you can decide where you want to go. The next step is to gain clarity about the reality you want to step into. What does this new reality look like? What are the emotions and thoughts you want to resonate with in this new timeline? The more specific you can be, the easier it will be to begin shifting toward it. For example, if you want to experience a life of abundance, clarity on what that means to you personally is key. Does abundance mean financial freedom, meaningful relationships, or freedom of time? Each of these qualities will guide you toward different parallel realities, and the clearer you are, the more you can focus on the timeline that aligns with your deepest desires. Visualization is one of the most effective tools for timeline shifting. By vividly imagining the version of yourself living the life you desire, you align your consciousness with that reality. This act of imagination helps to train your mind to see possibilities instead of limitations. When you visualize yourself already living in this new reality, you are imprinting that version of your life onto your subconscious, which in turn begins to direct your thoughts, emotions, and actions toward that future. However, simply visualizing is not enough. You must also embody the energy of your desired timeline. What kind of person do you need to be in order to align with the new version of yourself? How do you need to show up in the world to resonate with this future reality? If you are seeking a life of abundance, you must begin to feel abundant, even if your external circumstances haven't changed yet. This emotional shift acts as a signal to the universe, telling it that you are ready for that version of your life to unfold. This is where many people get stuck. They believe that their reality must first change before they can shift their energy and emotions. In truth, it is the opposite. When you shift your internal state first, your external world begins to change. When you embody the energy of your desired timeline, you begin to resonate with the experiences that align with that energy. A powerful way to help embody this new timeline is through affirmations. Affirmations are short, positive statements that help reprogram your subconscious mind. When you repeat affirmations aligned with the reality you want to experience, you reinforce the beliefs and emotions that are necessary to shift timelines. For example, if your desired reality is one of financial abundance, you could repeat an affirmation like, "I am worthy of limitless abundance, and I attract it effortlessly into my life." The more you repeat these affirmations, the more they align your energy with the reality you wish to experience. You can also use meditation to help you shift timelines. Through meditation, You create space between your thoughts and connect with a deeper state of consciousness. In this stillness, you can access the timeless, formless aspect of reality and align your energy with the version of yourself you want to become. During meditation, focus on the feelings and experiences you wish to manifest, and let go of any attachment to how they will manifest. This relaxed state allows you to detach from the limitations of your current timeline and create space for a new reality to emerge. Another powerful tool for shifting timelines is the practice of gratitude. Gratitude aligns you with the energy of abundance and appreciation, which in turn shifts your focus toward the realities where those qualities are abundant. When you express gratitude for the things you already have, you amplify the frequency of abundance in your life, drawing in more of the same. Gratitude acts as a powerful magnet, pulling you toward the timeline where the things you desire are already manifesting. As you practice these techniques, it's important to remember that timeline shifting is a process. It may not always happen instantly, but every time you focus on a new reality and align with it emotionally, you are gradually shifting toward it. The more consistently you practice, the more fluid and seamless the transition will become. In fact, with enough practice, timeline shifting will become second nature to you, and you'll find that you are able to shift between parallel realities with ease. There is also an important concept known as synchronicity that often accompanies timeline shifts. Synchronicity refers to the meaningful coincidences that arise when you are in alignment with your desired reality. For example, you may meet someone at the perfect moment, or an unexpected opportunity may present itself that moves you closer to your goal. Synchronicity is a sign that you are on the right path, and that your shift in focus and energy is bringing your desired timeline into fruition. Pay attention to these signs. They are the universe's way of showing you that your timeline shift is working. As you continue to explore parallel realities and the shifting of timelines, it's crucial to remember that you are not a passive observer of your life. You are the creator of your experience. Every thought, belief, and action shapes the reality you experience, and by taking conscious control of these aspects, you can navigate between timelines with intention. The power lies within you to shift from one version of yourself to another, to choose the reality that aligns with your highest desires. One way to enhance your ability to shift timelines is to practice detachment from the outcomes you are trying to manifest. While it is important to have a clear vision of the reality you wish to experience, it is equally important not to become overly attached to how or when it will happen. Attachment creates resistance, and resistance slows down the process of timeline shifting. When you let go of attachment, you create space for your desired reality to manifest effortlessly. Detachment doesn't mean giving up on your goals or dreams. It simply means releasing the need to control every detail of the process. Trust that the universe is always guiding you toward the best possible outcome, and allow things to unfold naturally. This sense of trust and surrender is key to accelerating your timeline shift, as it removes the energetic blocks that could be preventing you from fully aligning with your new reality. In this process of detachment, mindfulness plays a significant role. By becoming present to the moment and observing your thoughts and feelings without judgment, you can gain clarity on where your focus is currently directed. This awareness helps you consciously shift your energy toward the version of yourself you wish to become, rather than being swept up in the old patterns of thought that may have kept you stuck in a different timeline. It's also helpful to embrace patience during your journey of timeline shifting. Although you are the creator of your reality, some shifts take time to fully manifest in the physical world. This is because the external world often needs time to catch up with the changes you've made internally. Patience allows you to stay grounded and maintain faith in the process, even when the changes don't appear immediately. Remember, your reality is constantly evolving, and with each moment, you are creating the foundation for a new timeline to emerge. Another practice that can accelerate your timeline shifting is aligning your actions with your desires. While focusing on your thoughts, emotions, and energy is essential, taking action that reflects your intentions is equally important. When you take steps toward your desired reality, you signal to the universe that you are serious about shifting timelines and are ready to receive the experiences aligned with that reality. These actions don't have to be huge or drastic. Even small, consistent actions can create momentum and shift you toward a new version of yourself. As you align your actions, make sure they are consistent with the feelings and energy you wish to embody. For example, if you are shifting toward a reality of abundance, your actions should reflect that sense of prosperity. This could mean making decisions that support your growth, setting boundaries with your time, or investing in opportunities that resonate with your new frequency. In this way, you align your energy, thoughts, emotions, and actions with your desired timeline, making it easier to shift into the reality you wish to experience. One of the most profound aspects of parallel realities and timeline shifting is the recognition that you are not bound by your past. Many people feel that their past defines who they are, but the truth is that the past is merely one version of the story of your life. You can choose to shift your timeline and create a future that reflects the version of yourself that aligns with your deepest desires. Your past does not have to dictate your future. You have the power to rewrite your story at any moment, choosing the version of yourself and the timeline that supports your growth and evolution. The concept of parallel realities also offers a deep sense of freedom. It reminds you that there are infinite possibilities before you, and at any given moment, you can choose a new path, a new timeline, and a new version of yourself. This realization brings with it the freedom to explore and create your life in a way that aligns with your true essence. There are no limits to what you can achieve when you recognize that you are the creator of your reality, and that you have the ability to navigate between infinite parallel realities. As you continue your journey of timeline shifting, remember that the process is not about reaching a destination, it's about the ongoing evolution of who you are. With every choice, you are creating a new version of yourself and a new reality to match. Timeline shifting is a powerful tool for transformation, helping you unlock new possibilities and experience the life you've always dreamed of. In the next part of this video, we will dive into how you can begin to recognize the signs that you are successfully shifting timelines, and how to strengthen your ability to navigate the different versions of yourself. Some people describe moments when a person they're talking to suddenly pauses or zones out, almost as if they've frozen. Like a video buffering mid-sentence, their face blank, their eyes vacant, and then, as if rewinding, they pick up right where they left off, unaware of the interruption. What was that? A brain lag, or a temporary breakdown in the holographic field, a glitch in the rendering of the simulation? To the rational mind, these moments are dismissed. To the aware observer, they are clues. Then there are the objects that disappear. You're absolutely certain you placed your keys on the table. You search everywhere. Nothing. Later, sometimes hours, even days, you find them in the very place you looked 10 times. This is so common it's become almost mundane, shrugged off as forgetfulness. But what if your reality re-rendered itself? What if you briefly switched timelines or adjusted your frequency just enough that the object wasn't part of that version of reality until you recalibrated and it reappeared? This phenomenon is known to some as a reality shift. And while it may sound fantastical, thousands of people around the world have reported similar events, items vanishing and reappearing, messages changing after being read, events unfolding differently the second time around. These experiences all point to a fluid, responsive environment rather than a fixed, objective one. A matrix that molds itself around consciousness. Now, let's take a brief detour into the idea of symbolic messages from the field, the kind that show up in numbers, animals, and music. Have you ever found yourself seeing the same number pattern repeatedly, like 1111, 202, or 444? You see it on clocks, receipts, license plates, even randomly online. Once you notice it, it seems to follow you. These are often referred to as angel numbers, synchronicity codes, or frequency markers. They aren't random, they are energetic pings from the matrix, markers that you're becoming more lucid within the dream. Different numbers carry different vibrations. Repeating ones, 11R1 1111, often signify alignment, awakening, and a moment of expanded awareness. 3s are linked to creation and divine support. 4s to grounding and stability. 5s suggest change. When you start seeing these codes, pay attention to what you're thinking, doing, or feeling in that moment. The message is not just in the number, it's in the moment itself. Animals can serve a similar purpose. They are part of the matrix too, each one a symbol, a totem, a messenger. A crow flying overhead might not just be a bird. It could be a nudge from your subconscious, or a signal of transformation on its way. Butterflies often symbolize rebirth. Owls can mean wisdom or hidden truth. These creatures appear in your awareness when you're vibrating at the frequency to receive their message. Everything is interconnected. And then there's music. How many times have you turned on the radio or shuffled your playlist and heard a song that spoke directly to your situation? Lyrics that echo your thoughts, melodies that bring peace in chaos, songs that appear right when you need to hear them. Again, not random. Music is frequency. Frequency shapes the hologram, and your emotional field, your vibrational output, attracts exactly the messages you're ready to receive. All these glitches, signs, and synchronicities are ways the universe communicates. But more than that, they are evidence that the boundary between what we call physical and what we call spiritual is dissolving. We are beginning to remember that the physical world is not the base layer. Consciousness is. Everything else, time, space, matter, even logic, is a projection from that source. What does that mean for you? It means the universe is not something you exist inside of. You are the universe, experiencing itself from a specific point of view. The dreamer and the dream. And when you start seeing through the illusion, you gain access to your creator abilities. You begin to co-author the code. But there's a key difference between noticing glitches and obsessing over them. One is a signal of awakening. The other is a trap. Your goal is not to find every inconsistency in the matrix, like a paranoid investigator. Your goal is to become aware enough to choose your experience, to recognize when the simulation is showing its seams, so that you can step into higher layers of mastery. Awareness is power. When a dream speaks to you, listen. When numbers repeat, take note. When symbols appear, pause and reflect. The more fluent you become in the language of the universe, the more magical and lucid your life becomes. You're no longer reacting to the matrix, you're dancing with it. In our final segment of this part, we'll explore one of the most subtle yet profound aspects of all these glitches, how they relate to your beliefs, your focus, and the stories you tell yourself about what is real. Because ultimately, the matrix does not exist outside of you. It is inside you, and you have the power to bend it. Let's dive deeper into how these glitches are actually reflections of your own inner world. Because the matrix, this holographic reality, is a mirror. It shows you what you believe. It echoes what you feel. It mirrors what you expect. The objects disappearing, the odd pauses in people's speech, the same number following you. They're not just random data points. They are feedback. They reveal how fluid and suggestible reality is, and how central your consciousness is to it all. When you shift internally, when your beliefs change, when your identity transforms, when you make a powerful decision, the outer world often glitches for a moment, because it must reconfigure to match the new frequency you're emitting. This is when things go missing. This is when people act out of character or disappear from your life. This is when you feel like you're walking between worlds, and you are. You're not imagining things when you say the air feels different. You're not being paranoid when a person you were thinking about suddenly calls or texts. You're not losing your mind when you wake up from a dream that seemed more vivid than your waking life. These are all signs that your perception is expanding. Dreams, especially, are perhaps the most overlooked gateways into the structure of the hologram. When you dream, you are entering a dimension of pure thought and frequency, a reality unbound by the filters of the physical senses. That's why time behaves differently, why you can fly, why people merge and places shift. In that space, you are closer to the true mechanics of reality. Dreams show you that your mind doesn't need physical input to create vivid, convincing worlds. Which begs the question, if your mind can do that in sleep, what's really happening when you're awake? Could it be that waking life is just another layer of the dream, rendered with a more consistent frame rate? More and more people are beginning to remember dreams that feel prophetic. They dream of events before they happen. They see symbols that later manifest in real life. This isn't coincidence. This is your consciousness tapping into the quantum field, the source code. Symbols in dreams are especially potent. They are the language of the subconscious. And because the subconscious is the projector of the hologram, understanding these symbols gives you greater influence over your external world. If you dream of being chased, it may not be about the pursuer. It could be about what you're avoiding in your waking life. A house with many rooms, that could be the map of your own psyche, inviting you to explore hidden parts of yourself. Water, often connected to emotion. Snake, transformation. Death, usually not literal, more likely a symbolic ending to make room for something new. The more you learn to read these symbols, the more you see that life is using the same language. The world becomes a dream that you can interpret, influence, and reshape. Let's come back to synchronicity. The great Swiss psychiatrist Carl Jung coined the term to describe meaningful coincidences, events that seem unrelated in the physical but deeply connected in meaning. For example, you're thinking about someone you haven't spoken to in years, and they call you that day. You're contemplating a decision, and suddenly a song comes on with lyrics that feel like a direct answer. These aren't just happy accidents. They are frequency alignments, the universe matching your internal vibration with external experience. Jung believed synchronicity was evidence of an underlying order, a deeper pattern that unites psyche and matter. And that's exactly what the holographic universe reveals. Everything is connected, everything is one. So why do some people experience these glitches and synchronicities constantly while others never notice them? The answer lies in awareness. You must tune in to see them, like a radio dial finding the right frequency. If your mind is crowded with distraction, if your beliefs are rooted in hard materialism, if your heart is closed, the signals pass you by. But when you begin to slow down, when you observe, when you choose to believe that magic is real, that's when the matrix starts to speak. It speaks in whispers, it nudges you, it tests whether you'll follow the thread. And when you do, when you follow the signs, honor the dreams, embrace the symbols, something begins to shift. Reality feels lighter, more malleable. You realize you're not just an actor reading lines in a script. You're the writer, the director, the dreamer waking up inside the dream. There is one final truth that underpins all of this. The matrix reflects what you most deeply believe to be true. If you believe the world is hostile, full of struggle and limitation, it will be. If you believe the world is magical, responsive, and alive, it will show up that way. You are the filter, you are the filter, you are the tuning fork, you are the signal. And once you know this, truly know it, the game changes. You move from being a character to being a creator. You stop reacting to glitches and start playing with them. You use them to navigate, to confirm your alignment, to recognize that you are exactly where you're meant to be. This is not superstition. This is not fantasy. This is the holographic universe revealing itself to you, one symbol, one synchronicity, one dream at a time. And the question it's always asking is, are you paying attention? Part 12, what it means for you. Awakening inside the hologram. Now that you've glimpsed the mechanics of the holographic universe, the projection of consciousness, the merging of science and mysticism, the patterns that shape your reality, the final question becomes the most personal of all. What does this mean for you? What do you do with this knowledge? Because this isn't just an abstract theory to be admired from a distance. It's not just a fascinating idea you tuck away in a journal or discuss with a friend over coffee. This is a doorway, and now that you've walked through it, life cannot and will not look the same. To awaken inside the hologram is to become lucid in the dream of life. Just like in a lucid dream, you become aware that you're dreaming. You realize that the world around you, its rules, its limitations, its seeming permanence, is shaped by your consciousness. And with that realization, the rules begin to bend. You stop being a passive observer. You become an active participant, a creator, an artist painting your reality with intention, emotion, and thought. This awareness doesn't mean you'll never face challenges. It means you'll understand that challenges are data, opportunities, messages from the matrix asking, what do you believe right now? Where is your frequency tuned? Awakening inside the hologram means taking radical responsibility for your vibration. It means knowing that the world is not happening to you, it is happening through you. A mirror of your beliefs, your wounds, your desires, your energy. You'll begin to feel it, the subtle shift. When something bad happens, your first instinct won't be to blame the world. Instead, you'll get curious. What part of you called this in? What is this situation trying to show you? Where is the growth? Where is the gift? That's not denial, that's empowerment. You stop fearing what life brings because you know you can transmute it. You know your thoughts are not just in a commentary, they are creative forces. Every time you speak, you cast a spell. Every time you feel, you send a signal. Every time you imagine, you plant seeds in the quantum field. This is what mystics have said for centuries. And now science is catching up. In a holographic reality, every piece contains the whole. Every thought you have contains the blueprint of the life you'll live. And that's the point. You are the blueprint. You are the signal. You are the dreamer, dreaming the world into being. So what happens next? You begin to play. You begin to experiment. You ask, what happens if I choose love instead of fear? What happens if I believe something amazing is unfolding right now, even if I can't see it yet? What happens if I treat every interaction as meaningful, every sign as guidance, every moment as sacred? And something extraordinary begins to happen. The world responds, not because it's magical, although it is, but because it's responsive. Because that's what a hologram does. It reflects, it echoes, it bends to the shape of your perception. This is the inner alchemy, changing the outer world by transforming the inner one, shifting the projection by adjusting the light within. You'll notice the synchronicities increase. You'll notice people shift around you, some falling away, others drawn to you like magnets. You'll notice time behaving differently, days stretching, moments expanding, desires manifesting with less resistance. And you'll start to trust deeply, because you'll know that you are not lost in a chaotic universe. You are dancing with it, shaping it, in constant dialogue with a field that is listening. You'll feel connected again to something greater, to the intelligence behind the scenes, to the rhythm that moves the stars and your heartbeat in tandem. And you'll realize that separation was always an illusion. There's only one mind here, only one field, and you are a unique expression of it, dreaming your version of the hologram into existence. You may begin to feel a deep calling, to live differently, to create, to serve, to express your truth, your vision, your frequency. Because awakening inside the hologram isn't just about personal liberation, it's about contribution, about becoming a conscious node in the field that uplifts the rest. What vibration, your joy, your peace, your presence, it ripples. It shifts timelines. It alters outcomes. You are more powerful than you've ever been told. Because you're not just in the universe. Universe is in you. And now you remember. This remembrance, this deep inner knowing, is not just a fleeting thought. It's a homecoming. A return to your original awareness. You've peeled back the illusion. You've glimpsed the code. And now, life becomes a conscious creation. You start recognizing the signs you once dismissed. That intuitive nudge, that perfect coincidence, that song that played at just the right moment. You see them for what they really are, echoes of the field, speaking your language, the hologram responding to your inner state. And in this space, you realize you've never truly been alone. The intelligence behind the veil has been with you all along, not judging, not punishing, just reflecting, loving, guiding. You don't need to strive to reach the universe. You are the universe, encoded in human form, a lens through which infinite consciousness experiences itself. And that's why your choices matter so much. Because every choice sends ripples through the web. Every thought is a frequency. Every act of kindness, every spark of love, every vision you hold in your heart, it reshapes the grid. This is why awakening is not passive. It's an invitation to participate, to live with intention, to walk with awareness, to speak as if your words are spells, because they are, to feel as if your emotions color the canvas of the world, because they do. You begin to understand energy in a whole new way. Your state of being is magnetic. That high vibration isn't just a spiritual concept, it's practical physics. It draws in realities that match its frequency. So you start tuning, not in a forced performative way, but from a place of care. You care about what you consume, what you allow into your field, what you say to yourself, because you understand it all becomes part of the projection. You also stop resisting contrast. You see contrast not as punishment but as refinement, a way for the hologram to show you where you're out of alignment, where old beliefs still live, where healing is needed. When something painful arises, you ask, what belief created this? What am I being invited to release? What is the hologram trying to teach me? And through that inquiry, you evolve, not by force but through awareness. You soften, you forgive, you realign, you become a clearer channel for the field to express through. And the more clear you become, the more reality reflects your inner truth. This process is sacred. It's not about perfection. It's about coherence, about aligning your thoughts, emotions, and actions with the truth of who you are. That truth: you are divine, you are eternal, you are powerful, and most of all, you are a creator. This understanding isn't meant to inflate the ego. It's meant to dissolve it. Because once you realize your true nature, you don't need to dominate or control. You flow. You collaborate with the field. You become a conscious dreamer, not a frightened survivor. Imagine how life changes from this place. You wake up each morning not wondering what will happen to you, but deciding what you will create. You see obstacles as puzzles, not punishments. You experience relationships as reflections, not random occurrences. Even your body feels different, because you now understand that it too is part of the hologram. Every cell responds to consciousness. Every healing begins as a shift in energy. So you treat your body with reverence. You listen to it. You tune into it as the exquisite vessel it is. Not just a machine, but an interface, a bridge between dimensions. You may begin to explore new ways of living, new ways of working. You might be drawn to different environments, new people, unfamiliar ideas, all part of the realignment process. As you move deeper into this awareness, something subtle but profound happens. You lose your fear of death, not in a reckless way, but in a peaceful, knowing way. Because you understand now that consciousness doesn't die. The dream shifts, the hologram changes, the soul continues, and with that fear gone, life opens. You stop clinging, you start living. There is so much freedom in that. The freedom to explore, to experiment, to make mistakes and start again. You realize there's no final destination, just layers of awakening, spirals of remembrance, depth after depth of seeing through the illusion. And you realize the journey itself is the point. The dream, the hologram, the shifting dance of energy. It's all sacred. You stop chasing a final answer and start being the answer. You stop waiting for permission and start living from alignment. As this realization settles into your being, something extraordinary happens. You stop reacting to the world as if it's happening to you. Instead, you begin to respond to life as if it's happening through you. You are no longer the victim of circumstance. You are the conductor of vibration. And your life is the symphony that plays in response. The idea of manifestation takes on new depth. It's no longer about forcing desires into form. It's about becoming so aligned with your inner world that the outer world can't help but reflect it. Desires are no longer chased. They arise naturally. They flow into being with less effort and more synchronicity. You begin to walk as if you are one with the universe, because you are. And this walk is graceful, not because everything is perfect, but because you are in rhythm. You trust the seasons of your journey, the expansions and contractions, the waves of clarity and the fog of forgetting. Even the forgetting becomes sacred, because in every forgetting, there is the opportunity to remember again. And with each remembrance, the illusion thins a little more. You touch deeper truths. You awaken in layers. You start seeing others not just as characters in your play, but as fellow dreamers. The person who challenges you, you see them as a mirror. The stranger who smiles at you, you feel the silent recognition. The teacher, the friend, the lover, the critic, all playing parts perfectly, all helping you remember who you are. Judgment softens. You understand that everyone is waking up at their own pace, and some are still deep in the dream. You don't need to fix them. You only need to embody the truth. And that truth radiates. It creates ripples. Your presence becomes an activator, not because you preach, but because you are. Because you live in harmony with the field. Because you've made peace with the illusion and mastered the art of dreaming consciously. You also begin to take radical responsibility. No more blame, no more waiting. You understand that what you see is what you be. If the hologram shows you chaos, you look within. If it shows you beauty, you celebrate the alignment. This doesn't mean bypassing pain or denying injustice. It means seeing beneath the surface, asking, what consciousness created this pattern? What collective belief is being reflected? How can I hold the vision of a new world and live as if it's already here? And that is the greatest act of all, to live the truth before the world reflects it. To become the blueprint of a higher timeline. To dream, not only for yourself but for humanity. Because this isn't just about you. You're part of a greater awakening, a wave of remembering sweeping across time and space. In evolution, not of species, but of spirit, we are learning to step beyond the veil, to read the code, to shape the dream. Every time you choose love over fear, the grid shifts. Every time you forgive, the matrix softens. Every time you honor your intuition, the hologram aligns. You become a bridge between dimensions, between old and new, between sleeping and awake. And as more people awaken, the dream changes. The hologram becomes lighter, the distortions dissolve, the false programming unravels. Can you imagine that world? A world built on conscious creation, where we understand that thought is energy, where we teach our children that emotions are magnetic fields, where reality is not feared but sculpted together. That world is not far away. It exists now, in potential, in the quantum field, waiting to be chosen. And you, listening to this now, are one of its architects. You're not here by accident. You didn't find this message randomly. Something in you was ready to remember. Something in you already knew. So breathe it in. Let the old story dissolve. Let the illusion crumble. You are not small. You are not separate. You are not powerless. You are infinite consciousness dreaming. And now you awaken. Open your eyes. Feel the dream around you. The colors, the patterns, the energy. You are inside the hologram. But now you know, you're also the projector. So dream wisely. Dream boldly. Dream beautifully. Because the world you see is the one you choose to believe.